What's that? Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is the afternoon study of Parshat Vayakhel. This is Hakham Melech ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im, and we will study the Parsha together. So let me reset the sharing settings here. And there we go. So we were talking about Exodus 35:3, one of the psukim, one of the verses in the Torah, which has the largest or the most major significance to Karaites, for reasons that anyone who knows anything about Karaism already knows. And we were going through some commentaries. Remember, I said last week I would like to expand commentaries. I usually refer to Robert Alter, and sometimes I'll refer to Rashi. Rashi's generally useless, but once in a while he does say something worthwhile. But this week we checked the Ibn Ezra, who didn't really have anything of importance to this verse, although he didn't say anything cuckoo like Rashi often does. And then we checked just some commentaries. I'm on the site Bible Hub. I've never heard of most of these commentaries. Some of them are Christian commentaries, but it doesn't matter, just to get an idea. And we saw that some of them, in fact, many of them, happen to agree with what I was saying. So let's see if there are any other commentaries here. There's a whole bunch. Jeez. Expository, exegetical. Let's see what else we got here. Geneva Study Bible. Oh, I don't know. Darby. Did we read Darby already? Fun Commentary covers chapters 35 through 40. No, that's not going to help us. Hastings. Okay, but we're on 35:3, so we want specific commentators or commentaries for this passage. Okay, so maybe we've run out of them, but many seem to agree with what I was saying this morning. And if you remember, I gave a number of different reasons for what I believe is the interpretation for Exodus 35:3. Let's just change that. And here are 5 of the reasons that I listed: grammatical, common sense reason, occurrence reason, logical reason, hypocritical reason. Okay, I'll go through them again very quickly. The grammatical reason is that the result is often substituted for the cause in biblical Hebrew. So we gave the example of Exodus 36:7. In Exodus 36:7, it says, so here it says literally the work was enough, but it really means the donations, the material was enough. So here the outcome of, or the ability to do the milacha is based on having enough material, but here it substitutes the outcome for the cause, or the result for the cause. Okay, so literally it says the work was enough for them to do the work, which they did, and more. And that doesn't make any sense. What it really means is the material was enough for them to do the work and more, the material that had been gathered through the Israelites. And lest you think I'm just making that up, we can find, for instance, in Everett Fox's translation, I haven't checked it yet, but I'm sure it will say something similar. So this is Exodus 35:3. No, I'm sorry, Exodus 36:7 is what we want. And it says the work material. Well, that's interesting. He kind of makes a compromise, but it's clearly the material, right? The work material. So he actually incorporates the idea that that the word really literally means work, but it's talking about the material, right? So here's the result, and here's the cause, or here's the outcome, and here's the prerequisite. Maybe we could put it that way. Okay. So, but you see clearly he's talking about the material, right? The work material. Work is just an adjective that modifies the word material, but he translates that as essentially material. And all of the translations basically do in one way or another. So we see here that the outcome is a substitute for the cause of the outcome, or the result is a substitute for the prerequisite. Okay, and this is a common construct, and I believe that's what's happening here in Exodus 35:3. So Exodus 35:3 says, "Lo tiv'aru esh b'chol moshvatechem b'yom haShabbat." Okay, literally, do not burn fire in all your habitations on the Shabbat day. But what it's really saying is, don't do work that is required to burn a fire. The burning of the fire is the outcome. The doing the work to cause the fire to burn is the prerequisite. And so, therefore, in my opinion, this is just another way of saying don't do milacha. However, it's using the example of building a fire, because that might have been one of the main tasks that people would do, especially on the Shabbat, or might do on the Shabbat when they're not doing other things, right? So it's using that as a paradigm, as an archetype, or as a paradigm for saying don't do work. Okay, this is just an example. Just like when it says, for instance, if something such and such happens to a shor, to a bull, or to a seh, a lamb, then do such and such. But that's just a stand-in. That's just an example, which is a kind of an archetypical stand-in for a general concept. Same thing here. So to make a long story short, I don't think, as I said this morning, there's any explicit prohibition against lighting a fire per se on Shabbat. What is prohibited is doing any work, any melacha, associated with lighting a fire. And I gave 5 reasons for that. That was the grammatical reason that we just spoke about. Second is a common sense reason. And I really should learn how to spell unpleasant. Okay, but I'll read it out because maybe it's small on the screen. Common sense, Shabbat would be unpleasant and even dangerous to the sick, infirm, and small children without a fire, even in the land of Israel, right? So it doesn't make sense that a fire would not be allowed to be lit once the Shabbat goes in, as the standard Karaites, the Egyptian Karaites, as I call them, say. That is a ridiculous interpretation. It just does not stand up to the litmus test of common sense. And even the rabbinical interpretation is ridiculous. The rabbinical interpretation is that you can leave the fire lit, but you can't touch it once the Shabbat goes in. So what's going to happen? The fire will go out, and then it's going to be cold. So the rabbinical interpretation only delays the pain by a couple of hours, right? Common sense, again, it's just not viable based on common sense. Yahweh is not some kind of cuckoo leader, some kind of cuckoo god. He doesn't believe in asking for ridiculous things. He is the creator of logic and common sense and mathematics and all of the rest of that stuff, right? And it would not be viable to think that he would ask us to sit in the freezing cold on Shabbat. The rabbis tend to make fun of the Karaites for sitting in the freezing cold and the dark during the Shabbat. But before the invention of electricity, they would probably have ended up doing the same. Because if their oil lamp went out, or if it didn't have enough fuel, or they couldn't give it enough fuel for the entire Shabbat, or if they tended a fire and then couldn't touch it afterwards, eventually their light and their heat would go out as well. So they're just as ridiculous as the Egyptian Karaites are. So, so that couldn't be, based on common sense, that couldn't be the proper interpretation of Exodus 35:3. It would create an unpleasant and perhaps dangerous to some people Shabbat. Okay, reason number 3 was what I call the occurrence reason. Okay, and I'll just read this out loud. The laws of Shabbat appear many times in the Torah. Never is a prohibition against fire mentioned aside from this verse, aside from Exodus 35:3. In addition, the rest of the Tanakh is never mentioned at all. There's no mention whatsoever when Shabbat occurs regarding a prohibition of fire. When Jeremiah and Nehemiah, when they excoriate Israel for violating the Shabbat, they don't say, "Oh, you had fires burning on Friday night once the sun set." No, what they say is you brought loads in through the gate, you engaged in business, etc. Right? So this is the only place in the entire Tanakh that any reference is made to fire being prohibited on Shabbat. Oh, and I forgot to add one more. Empirical. So that's illogical. Let me move empirical up one, and we'll leave hypocritical for now. We'll leave it as it is. Okay, so I'm sorry. So that's the occurrence explanation. Next explanation number 4 is that there is no law. I call it the logical explanation. Okay, and again, for those of you who just joined, I'm trying to explain why I think that Exodus 35:3 is not a prohibition against lighting fire per se on Shabbat. So the 4th reason is what I will call the logical reason, and that there is no logical explanation for prohibiting fire per se on the Shabbat. So one is only left to come up with mystical explanations, right? Oh, why doesn't God want us to light fire on Shabbat? Because it somehow represents, creation. It represents technology, as Robert Alter said. You have to come up with all of these kind of mystical, non-logical explanations. So that turns the Torah once again from a book of straightforward, wise laws that we see throughout the Torah into a book of these kind of do it because I said do it, or do it because the angels might cry and put out the fire or something like that. All kinds of strange, non-logical, mystical explanations. So again, just to sum up, for that reason, there is no logical explanation. It's a very logical explanation. Let me change this a little bit. But there is a logical explanation for prohibiting Okay, so the other thing, or everywhere else, what's prohibited on the Shabbat is melacha, is work, right? Perfectly logical explanation for that. We're given explicitly explanations for that in Exodus 20. We're told that you don't do work in order that your son, your daughter, your maid, your servant, your maidservant, the ger in your gates, and your animals may rest. That's very logical, right? That's why you don't do work, so that nobody has to do work, right? Just like, as I always like to point out, on Thanksgiving in the United States, when I was growing up, everybody had the day off. The stores were pretty much closed on the day of Thanksgiving. And even from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they were pretty much kind of closed, especially definitely Thursday and Friday, right? And and now what happens is everybody, I won't say everybody, but many people have to go to work on Wednesdays, even on Thursdays now. They have to cut their Thanksgiving meal short and rush off to work. They can't spend time with their family, and they're scared to not show up to work because they will get fired. So what happens is that because I, as the store owner, quote unquote, decide to work, now I have to make all of my workers work. All of those who really should appreciate and should deserve the day off, now they don't have the day off. So that is a logical explanation for why I'm not supposed to work on Shabbat. I don't work so that everybody has the day off. The most downtrodden, the most lowest, those in the lowest rung in society also have the day off. Okay, so that's a logical explanation. Another logical explanation that we're given is to commemorate that Yehovah rested on the 7th day after creation. It's basically respecting the creation of the world, the story of the creation of the world, right? But the most logical, of course, is what we said in well, no, they're both. Okay, so that's a logical explanation for prohibiting melacha, but there is no logical explanation for prohibiting a fire per se. Okay, only for the melacha associated with fire. So if I were to start tending to a fire, rubbing 2 sticks together, chopping firewood, all of that kind of stuff, that's now melacha, and that now falls under the prohibition of melacha on the Shabbat, right? Which does make sense. Okay, finally, no, second to last is the hypocritical reason, which is that we'll take the rabbis, but even the Egyptian Karaites, the rabbis in their own actions show how ridiculous their interpretation is, because they still use fire. They need to use fire. First of all, since electricity came along, now they're able to basically substitute electricity for fire in many cases, even though they prohibit it, not because it's related to fire, but because it's related to completing a circuit, which is like building. If I remember my Shiva classes correctly. So, but they're still using fire. They'll use a Shabbos goy if they need to. They'll use a non-Jew to come in and light the fire on their stove, if it's gone out or something like that, and they still do work, such as cleaning the table. Or the example I always like to give is that they will walk long distances in the summertime in Jerusalem, up and down the hills of Jerusalem, going to their Rebbe's house for lunch. They'll walk an hour in the blazing hot sun, dressed in their ridiculous, Polish winter Polish winter garb, and basically going on a long hike in the blazing midday summer Jerusalem sun, up and down the hills of Jerusalem, dressed completely inappropriate. And that so they actually do a lot more work by saying that they cannot light a fire. If they were to just go into their car, turn it on, which does not require any work, and drive 10 minutes to their Rebbe's house, then they would obviously be doing a lot less work. Okay. And the other example, or the other reason that I believe that, or the other proof that I believe that Exodus 35:3 is not a prohibition against fire per se, is what we can call empirical proof. Okay, that's kind of like the occurrence proof, but slightly different. Empirical proof, we can use the example of Numbers 15. And in Numbers 15, let me bring it up. We see that someone is put to death. I'll bring it in English just to make it a little bit easier. Someone is put to death for doing something associated with fire on the Shabbat, right here. But he's not put to death for lighting a fire. He's put to death for gathering wood, okay, which is an activity, which is a milacha, an actual act of work, hard work, right? Going out into the woods and gathering firewood is not easy, okay? And he did this on Shabbat day, and he's put to death, not for the fire itself, but for the milacha associated with the fire. So we can put here Numbers 15, 30 of the gatherer. Okay, so that it's not a proof. We do have evidence or the probe is 30 to fire, right? There we have actually an Israelite going out and doing milacha associated with kindling a fire, but he's not put to death for actually lighting the fire. He's put to death for doing the milacha that would be associated with making a fire. So that's that. Those are the reasons. And I'm sure there are other ones, but I can't think of them offhand. If I come up with something, then I will certainly add it to the list. Okay, so there we go. Let's move on. I think we've spent enough time on Exodus 35:3. Move on to tabernacle. This is the 4. That translated the congregation, it's the word they usually use, the congregation, because Vayakhel or Kahal means to congregate together, to call together. Adat is usually this. No, they don't translate it as assembly. At any rate, the point. Oops. The point that I want at this. See if it's here. Right. So it's interesting here. Okay. So that the BDB says properly company assembled together by appointment, which implies that it would be related to the word mo'ed, or which is appointment. Let me just see one thing here. Where can we get it? We can get it in Leviticus 23. Right. So a moed is an appointed time, place, meeting. Okay, appointed time. It's usually translated as, right. And so according to this, the underlying verb is ya'ad, to appoint. Okay. So moed comes from ya'ad. In modern Hebrew, ya'ad is a destination or a goal, you could say, also. So that's from ya'ad if it is related to moed. However, let's bring it back. So Ida, so it says it's from Ya'ad. But down here, let me just see one more thing. So I'm a bit confused because I actually thought that Ida, and I could be wrong, I'd have to do some research on it. So here the BDB is saying, or at least this Strong's, which has to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt, is saying that Ida comes from Ya'ad, but I'd always assumed or believed that Ida comes from Aid. And Aid is a witness. Okay? So an Ida would be a group of witnesses. Adat would be like the Jehovah's Witnesses, basically, right? Adat Yisrael is like the Jehovah's Witnesses, or Adat Yehovah, or Adat Yisrael would be the Jehovah's Witnesses, literally. Okay, so I'm going to go with that until I can find otherwise, even though the Strong's is saying that it's related to the word Ya'ad. I believe it's related to the word Aid. And so a better translation of this would be, well, let's see if any of the English translations actually do come up with some kind of translation related to witness. Gonna go to parallel. Community, congregation. See, kahal would be a better word for congregation, as we said. So I don't like that. Community, maybe. Community. No, congregation. Multitude, no. Community, congregation. I'm not seeing any good. Company, additional translations. Translation, congregation, company, assembly. All right, I don't know. I can't see any good translations here, and I can't think of the word in English that would make it related to Adat. So basically, Vayakhel Moshe et kol Adat b'nei Israel, I would translate it as something like, we're down here. Moshe el kol Adat b'nei Israel. So Moshe said to all of the witnessing congregation or the witnessing company, the witnesses of the children of Israel, right? And what are they witnesses? What does that mean? That they're the Adat, the witnesses. They're like what Jehovah's Witness call themselves, right? They're witnesses to God's greatness, right? So Adat b'nei Israel, but I guess I'll have to go with community of the children of Israel, but the witnesses of the children of Israel, the witnesses of God's greatness of the children of Israel, they more zeh davar asher tziwa Yehovah lemor, kachul me'itchem truma leYehovah kol nediv libo yivieha et trumat Yehovah zahav v'chesef v'nechoshet. Okay, so chume itchem, take from yourselves, okay, take from among yourselves, donation to Yehovah. Kol nadiv libo yivieha, anyone who is generous of the heart, whose heart speaks to him or encourages him to do it, shall take it. Yavieha et trumat Yehovah zahav ukesef nechoshet. Yavieha et trumat shall bring the donation of Yehovah, donation to Yehovah of gold, silver, and bronze. Okay, so that's that. Just a grammatical point here. Again, I want to see how some of the English translations deal with it. So that's 35. That's Exodus 35:5. Let's see how Robert Alter deals with it. Well, I think we went right past Exodus. Exodus 35. 5. Take from what you have with you donation to the Lord, whose heart urges him, let him bring it. The donation of the Lord, gold and silver and bronze. So he interprets Yavieha as bring it. This is a strange grammatical construct here, which I don't want to get bogged down in here. Okay, et trumat Yavieha et trumat. Okay, I guess it does make sense. Okay. At any rate, we went through all of these materials a couple of weeks ago. Tchelet is sky blue, possibly from, well, here's our list right here, right? We went through all of these materials, tabernacle materials. Sky blue, perhaps on the hexaplex trunculus or indigo or woad, or it's just a color. Then we have, argaman, Torah Shani, right? So here's argaman. Maybe Tyrian purple from the hexaplex trunculus, which is a snail, a sea snail. Or is it just a color? Torah Shani, worm, scarlet, from perhaps the species known as Kermes vermilio, the same place that the ancient cultures used to get, what is it called again? I forgot the word. At any rate, it doesn't matter. So it's possibly from a worm. Crimson, that's the word I was looking for. The word kermes is related to the word crimson, right? So this is how they produce crimson with this. It's not a worm. They call it I forgot what they call it. I'd have to look it up again. But it's kind of like this insect that attaches itself to barks and leaves, okay? Let's look it up for 1 second. There it is. It is a scale insect. And it attaches itself to barks and leaves there. That's a scale insect. So there it is, a kermes. That's where you get the word crimson from. So crimson perhaps from that animal or some kind of worm-like creature. So that's that. Shesh, we said, might very well be, it's usually translated as fine linen, but many translations and many researchers are of the opinion that it is of the byssal threads of mussels, also known as sea silk. Izim. Next is izim, that's female goat hair. You always said shesh. Izim, orot elim, ma'adamim. Same here, ramskins, tahashim is next. Nobody really knows. Dolphin, dugong, seals. There's some, many opinions say it's some kind of marine mammal. Others say, no, it's not. So there are all kinds of different opinions of what it might be. Atzei shitim, that we know what it is. Atzei shitim is acacia tree, okay? In fact, I should add the word atzei tishim here. No, just leave it shitim. Okay, and that we know what it is, acacia tree. Okay, acacia tree you could see growing in the deserts in southern Israel. Actually, I think pretty much all over Israel. Okay, so those always seem to appear together. Okay, Zahav, Kesef, Nechoshet, Chelet, Argaman, Torlat Shani, Shesh, Nizim, Orot Elin, Tachshim, Shitim. Okay, that's the basic building materials for the tabernacle right there. Okay, and not only for the tabernacle, for also the garments. Well, everything associated with the tabernacle. Okay, so that's that. That brings us up to here. We are up to here. Shemen lemaor. So there's a shemen. That's next. That's olive oil. Bisamim. That's just translated as spices, which are then laid out in details of the anointing oil and the temple incense, which I should have added to this list, but I guess we didn't have time to. All right, and the shemen al-mishcha lektoret samim. Avnei shoham. So shoham is often translated as onyx, but nobody really knows again what it is. Nobody knows what most of these things are exactly. There's just speculation. Okay, but it's usually translated as onyx, and it's always mentioned separately. Why? Because it appears, or it is placed on the shoulder pads of the ephod, of the outer vest of the Kohen Gadol, of the chief priest. Okay, and then we have Avnei Miluim, or different types of setting stones, which are placed in the Avnei Choshen, the breastplate, or the Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate of judgment, although nobody knows what the word Choshen is. And so therefore that's a speculation as well. But these are the different types, right? There are 12 of them because there are 12 tribes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? So that's it. And here we have the shoham again. And this really should say shoham. I should just say see above. So there's a repeat. This is the same stone that's placed in the shoulder pad of the ephod. Okay. So there we go. So those are the materials. It's the same cast of characters that we saw earlier. And now we're actually putting it together. So before we got the instructions, Moshe was given a vision. He spent 40 days up on Mount Sinai, and he was shown what these things are supposed to look like. And now he's assembling his artistic talent team, his team of artisans, and they're now going to put the whole thing together. So verse 10, Hakham Melech, literally one who is wise of heart. Okay. Yeah, I think that speaks for itself. This is verse 10. Et Mishkan, so the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the tent around it, et michsehu, its covering, et krasau. So we should maybe if I have time, I'll play this video from Timna Park again that I played a couple weeks ago. But I'm not sure I want to get bogged down on it. We shall see. Krasav. So krasav is usually translated as clasps or something like that. Krashav, boards. Et birichav, it's bars. Et amudav, it stands. Et adanav. Adanav is translated as sockets. So all the different parts of the tabernacle and the surrounding tent. Okay. Et haron or et badao, the aron. So the aron is the aron ha'edut. This is the whatchamacallit. How do they say that? The in English again. I'm trying to think of the words in English. Aron ha'edut is the not the closet. I can't remember the words in English. The Ark of the Covenant. Thank you very much. The Ark of the Covenant. Et badav. So the bad is its carrying poles. Et hakaporet. The kaporet is the covering. I'm sorry. The kaporet is the covering over the Aron ha'edut. It's the cover over the ark in which the angels are, the cherubim are made. It's the gold covering over the Ark of the Covenant. Parochet, this is the curtain that separates the Holy of Holies from the rest of the tabernacle. Anyway, these are all the different parts. So I don't know if I want to get bogged down in this because, again, picture's worth 1,000 words. Okay, I'll just translate very quickly. But minorat ma'or, the candelabra of lights, in other words, the menorah. White keleha and all its vessels, white nerotea and all its lamps, white shemen ma'or, and the lighting oil, which we said is a katit, and what was the other word associated with it? I can't remember right now. Katit means it's beaten rather than pressed, and zach katit, so clear, meaning it's high quality. You know, the highest quality olive oil, unless it's unfiltered, is going to be very clear. It's going to be very light color, and then as you continue to press, the color is going to be darker and more cloudy. Okay, so zach katit. Okay, that's top quality olive oil, basically. At mizbech ketoret. So this is the incense altar. At badav, that's its carrying poles. On and on and on. I don't want to get bogged down because these are just words, and there's no way to bring them to life without actually seeing them. So there we go. Okay, so I think what we're going to do now is, even though it's repetitive, and even though I did it a couple weeks ago, I have the video set up, and I think it will be worth it. Hello, everyone. Okay. All right, Ariella, good to see you. And please send Ben my prayers and my regards and all of that good stuff. So I think I'm going to play this video again to bring things to life, and then maybe that'll give us a kind of a touch point to see what's going on. Okay, even though I played it, I think 2 weeks ago, I think it's worth it. So let's see if I can get this going. So what it is a video that we took when we were in Timna Park in 2019. In Timna Park, which is just about a half an hour, 45 minutes north of Eilat, is a is this going to work? Hold on a second. I've got to do this differently. My mistake. Timna Park is a life-size replica of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. And I think rather than me just sitting here and saying, look like this, and the poles went here, and this looked like that, but picture's worth 1,000, maybe even more words. Let's just play it and see what happens. So that's what I'm going to do. Just give me a second to start it up. And we can get down to business here. If anyone has any comments, please stop, even in the middle of the playing of the video. Just let me know. I'll try to keep an eye out for comments. If anyone has any comments or any questions. Why is this not working? Okay, open with QuickTime Player. Thank you very much. There we go. Now let's see if I can come back here. And over here, let me set up the sharing a little bit differently. So I have to stop this sharing, stop screen. Now I've got to do share screen. I've got to do window, and I've got to do Timna Park, share. Now it should be working. I have to leave this on. And I can start.
At Mount Sinai, Moses receives a very important commandment.
那我们知道摩西的话呢，他去了西乃山，取得那个十诫，包括的话呢，整个会幕的那个建造。
God says, "Build me a temple so that I can dwell, so that I can be inside my people Israel."
帮忙的，我只是偶尔我们合作。没有，他就是说，建造会成很多嘛，然后我就会与我们同在，第二我是在的，和我的旨意
在一起同在，在我
就是神与我们同在的意思。会幕一开始建造，就神就与我们同在。
So God shows Moses what to build. He explains to him the measurements, and those we have in the book of Exodus, chapter 25.
那就是神的话呢，为什么的话叫摩西的话呢建造这个会幕？
So these are the measurements from the Bible. Everything given in cubits.
那这个的话呢，会幕呢整个建造的话呢，在圣经里面也有提到在那个出埃及记。
1 cubit is from the end of the fingers to the end of the elbow. That's a cubit.
对，那它的就是长啊，都是以轴的，就是名称来命名的。
It's about 40 to 50 centimeters on
它
average.
这个是40乘40。
So that's what I'll be using inside because that's what the Bible uses to describe the size of the place.
那我们的话呢，就是整个会幕的建造的话呢，都是根据圣经里边所提到的，按照他们的整个1比1的那个比例建造。
So the tabernacle is built from a donation that's given from all the tribes. All the tribes of Israel, all the 12 tribes. Tribe. Levi, Simon, Judah.
哦，就是每个就是支派。
So the tribe of Levi is in charge of the work at the tabernacle.
那他说利未支派的话呢，就是服侍呢，这个是会幕的。
Okay? They're in charge of taking it apart and putting it back together because this is portable. It's moving in the desert with them. It's made to be taken apart and moved to a new place.
哦，他们就是带他们去新的地方 ，move to a new place，就是带他们离开。
他们的，比如说他们要去另外一个地方，会幕也要跟着移动啊。
And from in the Levi tribe, God chooses the priests.
就是利未支派，他
Priests like Aaron. Aaron was the high priest.
对对，他就是那个亚伦是最高
的祭司。
And they're in charge of the sacrifices and the offerings. Okay? So if somebody had a sacrifice, they'd bring it to the gate of the tabernacle and give it to the priest, and he does the work.
Simply, too much I can't translate.
If you have a sacrifice,
sacrifice 它是一个洁净的，
you bring the sacrifice to the priest.
那如果的话，你要进会幕的话呢，首先我们要先洁净。
在地区的
And
祭
the
司，
priest would do the work. The priest would kill the animal for you.
祭司
那
会
对，
去
献祭，献祭啊。
So let's continue talking about that inside. We can see.
OK，那我们的话呢，现在的话呢，进入
I'm guessing I'm going to end up making this very simple because she's having a hard time trying to. So why don't you stand next to me when we move from place to place? I'll give you more details. Okay, excellent. So first of all, it says that there were 8,580 Levites between the ages of 30 and 50 that are in charge of the work. They were divided into 3 families of the Levites. The Koch family, which is living on the south, that's where the priest, the Kohanim, came out of. The Gershon family living on the west, and on the north, the family. They're all in charge of the work. Every family had a different doing.
And the 8,500, that's from the count in Numbers, in the book of Numbers, in Bamidbar?
I believe so.
Okay.
That's not the number of all tribes. That's the number of the people actually working. The holy items are carried by the Koch family. The 2 other families are in charge of the rest of things and loading it onto the ox cart. So the courtyard, I'll say that in a second, but the altar is near the gate. It was made out of acacia wood, covered with copper. It was 5 cubits by 5 cubits by 3 cubits high.
Yep.
This is the kevish, the ramp that led up to the altar. And inside you had Eshetamit, the eternal fire, the perpetual fire.
Yep.
Behind it, the wash basin. We'll get to a little bit later.
Okay. Is this real copper here, or that's?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Simple, not too much.
Okay, I'll try to make it simple. All right, so now we enter into the courtyard.
那这个的话呢，就是整个这个里对里面，这个是外院子，就是相对于那个这个圣所来说，这个就是外院。
The courtyard was 50 by 100.
那这个的话呢，长是100轴，宽是50。
The altar sacrifice was 5 by 5.
那这个的话呢是5轴乘5轴。
The building was
那里面的话呢，至圣所的话呢是最高的。
These are the measurements. And this is where the sacrifice will go.
那这个的话呢是一个翻祭坛。
There are many different kinds of sacrifices. There are many kinds. Many
各
kinds.
种各种有各种各样的那个翻祭坛形状的建造都是不一样的。
And this was the work of the priest. But the most important of the sacrifice was the sin sacrifice.
那
罪就是那
If you
个
do something bad, the same.
信是就是一个赎罪的那个
那翻祭坛的话呢，就是献那个赎罪祭的地方哈。
最要
So
的
if somebody
最
had
重
a
要的
sin sacrifice, they would bring it to the gate of the tabernacle, and they would give it to the priest. And the priest would kill the animal and do the work.
那我们的话呢，就是你要进入圣殿之前的话呢，首先我们要献祭，像我们的罪的话呢，那他们的话呢，就是将那个牛啊、公羊的血啊，就是洒在这个四面墙上。
Because in Leviticus chapter 17, the third book of Moses,
那唐三世
17. 1:7.
一章没有一章14节，它是那个叫做什么突然之间1章14节
It says that life
生命
is in the blood.
血里头有生命，
God says, don't drink blood,
所以就不要喝血，
don't eat blood.
不要吃血。
It's only to be used for atonement, to cover, lechaper, which means to cover, okay, the sins of the people.
就是这个去，就是救赎
kosher
人的这个血
血是预表救赎的意思
If
哈。
somebody had a sin, they would bring their sin sacrifice, and the life, the blood of that animal was used to cover the sins of the people or the person.
所以人们从这个门进来的时候，就要那个动物的血来洁净他的罪，就是旧约的时候要用动物的血来洁净。
So that's where this is happening at the altar of sacrifice.
这个祭坛就是这个献祭的祭坛哦。
Let's walk over to the wash basin next.
对，那我们的话呢，洗濯盆这个的话呢是翻祭坛哦。那这个
So this is an actual recreation, like it has all the lulaot and the klasim and everything that's described, or
No klasim, actually.
okay,
I'll,
you'll get to that.
I'm thinking maybe to do them very quickly.
洗濯盆 OK OK。
So I'll be back in like 5 minutes. Okay?
But he knows everything.
I know, but I'm not allowed to let people give their own tours. That's the thing. But I just don't want them to be waiting because I can just do it very fast with them and then I'll be back.
Okay.
So if you just have maybe 5 minutes, you can explain to them about this and I'll be back. Okay? Here, why don't you?
Okay.
Whoever can speak English fast.
Okay.
If not, you can join the. Okay. So wash basin?
Yeah.
Wash basin made out of pure copper, no measurements, no cubits or divided. There are measurements of the temple wash basin, but not the tabernacle wash basin.
Interesting.
We know that it contained water like a temple. It was put between the altar and the holy place, and this is where the priests needed to wash their hands and their feet when sacrificing and before entering. Only priests can enter. The Levites can all be in the courtyard, but only priests are allowed to enter the
Right.
holy place. Before we enter, I just want to explain.
And only Israelites can only go up to the gate, right?
You probably, yeah.
Okay.
There's actually a little bit difficult to understand because it says Azal loikanes, the stranger shall not enter, which usually means someone not from the tribes.
Right.
But it says Halevi velo Hazal, Halevi velo Hazal, right? So
Mhm.
Levi and Hazal. So
Mm,
anyway, it's a little bit up to you.
got it. Interpretation.
Yeah. So right now we're on the southern side of the tabernacle. The tabernacle is always built in the same direction. So it's east, west. So this is the southern wall.
Mhm.
If you look in the book of Exodus, there's a description of the panels, which are the boards that made up the walls of the tabernacle. South, west. The panels were made out of acacia wood covered with gold, a cubit and a half wide, each 10 cubits high. Every panel sat in 2 silver bases, was connected by 5 rods, 5 connecting rods, 5 total. 4 of them were on the outside, those are the ones that you see, and then 1 of them down the middle inside the panels themselves, holding it together so that whenever they have to move, the rods are pulled out and they're loaded on the ox cart by the Levites, right? Only holy items have to be hand carried by the Kahat family from the tribe of Levi. Everything else is just taken by animal. Over the tabernacle, you had 4 coverings. This is the first of 4 coverings. It was made out of linen. That blue, white, purple, and red linen fibers that were woven together. It was made in 10 sections. Every section was 4 cubits wide and 28 cubits long. On these sections, you had the artisan's design of the cherubim angels woven on this golden thread. Over this, you had the second covering made out of goat's hair. Okay, that's the second covering. The third covering was made out of ram skins dyed red, and the last covering was made out of tachash. We don't know exactly what a tachash is, but it's an animal. So we know it's a leather covering. So linen, goat's hair, and then 2 leather coverings.
So, but over here, this is supposed to be the linen.
Yeah.
And the goat's hair
The goat's hair, we have everything like open right now because
Okay.
we're like exposing the first one, the prettier one of the covering.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
We don't know if there was an angle or not. There might have been. Like in the
Mhm.
temple, this area was used for storage, for changing, for cleaning. So
Mhm.
possibly the same over here. It actually doesn't say. So,
Mhm.
but mainly we had it open also for structural integrity and also to expose the first of the covering. Let's step back quickly. Alright, so now we enter into the holy place on the priest roll in here. This is where you have the menorah. The menorah is made out of one piece of solid gold. It had 3 branches off of the inside, a flower and an almond as the decoration of the branches, 7 oil lamps on the top giving light. And this was the only source of light in the room. The screen that we passed was always closed, there are no doors or windows, only the menorah is giving light. The menorah was on the southern side of the room. In front of it on the north was the table of showbread. The table was made out of acacia wood, it was covered with gold. It was a cubit by 2 cubits by a cubit and a half. On it was 6 pieces and 6 pieces of showbread. The bread that represents the 12 tribes of Israel and how God looks after them and cares for them. This is also the bread that the priests had to eat every Shabbat, every Sabbath. The priest would eat this bread. Over here, the altar of incense was also made out of acacia wood, covered with gold. It was a cubit by 2 cubits. Inside, there was fire that was brought from outside from the altar of sacrifice. And this is where the priest would light the incense in the morning and in the evening every day. So here we have incense. What language do you speak? Czech. Czech. Wow. So here we have the description of the clothing of the priest and the high priest. So the priest wore a white hat, white tunic, white pants, and a colored sash around his waist. The high priest wore a white hat, white tunic, white pants, and a colored sash around his waist as well. But he also wore a golden band on his forehead that says "Holy to the Lord" or "Holiness to the Lord." Over his white clothing, he wore a blue robe. On the hem of the blue robe, there was a golden bell and pomegranate. Over his upper body, he wore the ephod, which had 2 stones on it. These are the onyx stones, and engraved onto these stones were the 6 names and 6 names of the children of Israel. It was connected to the chushan. This is the breastplate, which had 12 stones on it and 1 name engraved onto every stone. Again, he's wearing this because it says that he bears their names. He carries them before God as he's sacrificing and doing the offerings for them daily. That's his work as the high priest. He's taking from among the people to represent the people. And once a year, he can enter into the Holy of Holies. That's only on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement. On that day, he takes blood from 2 different sacrifices. One of them was for his sins, and one of them was for the sins of Israel. And he takes both of these into the Holy of Holies.
Really doing a nice job. Hope everyone doesn't die by going into the Holy of Holies.
All right, so now we enter into the Holy of Holies. We pass the Holy. That's the name of this screen over there. So past it is where the Ark of the Covenant was kept. The Ark was also made out of acacia wood, and it was covered with gold from the inside and outside. It had a solid gold covering. That's the component, the lid of the Ark, with 1 cherubim on either end, and their bodies one towards the other. Their faces downward towards the center of the covering, and inside you have the 2 stone tablets. These are the second stone tablets. Remember, Moses brought the first one, the second one brought to us. And then you also had a bowl with manna. And you had a bowl with manna. Then you had a bowl with manna to remind the children of Israel of how God provided for them. That's the manna they ate from the wilderness. Then you had the staff of Aaron also. That was to remind them not to rebel against God. That's from the end of the rebellion.
That was inside the Aron, or that was next to the Aron? Yeah, that's what I thought.
The bowl of manna and the staff are outside front. The tablets are inside, and alongside the ark from Deuteronomy chapter 31, you have the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses that put over here. When Moses finishes writing them, okay? Back to the Day of Atonement, the high priest enters dressed in white after lighting incense inside the room, and he sprinkles the blood on the covering of the ark 7 times, and 5 of the ark, on the corners of the incense and the altar of sacrifice outside. And then you continue to work outside here. To the other group. If anybody would like to join that group as well,
Yeah,
welcome,
I
of
think
course.
so, yeah.
But go back to the group.
Of course, the actual ones wouldn't have been written in Ashrit, the Assyrian script. They would have been written in Paleo-Hebrew script, but listen. It's supposed to be Aaron's blossom branch. I guess it's supposed to be the bowl of manna. One. That's what I said, yeah. Well, who would understand it? Come, let's go out and join the other group. Oops. Here's the menorah all beat out of. I would love to go through Exodus 25. It's just amazing. I mean, what a coincidence. I just did this chapter with Hakham Melech the other day, and now here we are as a live version of it.
All right, so whoever is interested can come back and keep explaining.
This is the priest.
Did you explain anything about the wash basin?
Yes.
Yeah. So they wash there, right? And then they can enter into the holy area.
那我们的话呢，从外面的话呢，洗手盆之后的话呢，我们就进入了这个圣所。
Showbread.
接着有12个支派的名字搁这个报纸上面。
的话呢，只有祭司才可以有资格进入。
And into the holy of holies, only the high priest can enter.
那如果至圣所的话呢，只有大祭司才可以进去。
This is where you had the menorah, the table, and the altar.
那这里的话呢，有金灯台和陈设饼的桌子，还有呢金香塔。
The menorah was made out of solid gold.
那这个金灯台的话呢，是由纯金打造的。
It had 3 branches off of either side.
那这里的话呢，就是有三朵花，这整个就是这一支有3朵花。
7 oil lamps on the top.
那一共有7支。
This is the source of light.
这个是
If there wasn't this, it would be dark. This is the only light.
哦，那这个的话呢，就是要一直点着，不可以熄灭的。生命之源，圣福嘛。所以说那个生命之源。
So every day, in the morning and in the evening, the priest would enter here to make sure that the menorah has enough oil and has enough wick.
那每天的话呢，早晨跟晚晨的话呢，祭司的话呢，都会给这个灯如果添油后，不让它熄灭。
Now the menorah was put on the southern side of the building.
那金灯台的话呢，是放在圣所里面。
And in front of it on the north was the table of showbread right here.
那在北边的话呢，是有陈设饼的桌子。
The table was made out of acacia wood.
那这个陈设饼的话呢，是无酵饼。
Shittim.
Shittim. In Hebrew, shittim.
是
It's a type of wood, the desert wood. You see it here.
So these trees we see around here, that's all acacia?
There are many different types of acacia.
Yeah, because the one up in Yerushalayim is very different. There's some tree up there they call acacia.
Well, there are two main different like families. One of them is the one that looks more like a bush.
Okay.
Right, there's one that actually looks like a bush. It just looks like a big bush. And then one looks more like a tree, but it actually has a trunk. Right. So
Right.
those are the two main kinds. The Bible says that the Etseshim of Dim were used, which is probably the one that actually has a that's the problem. But it's the desert tree, yeah, the desert that you see all around here. The tree, yeah. So that's
Yes.
the wood.
就是yes。那这个陈设饼的桌子的话呢，是由皂荚木做的。那皂荚木在里边，外边的话呢包着金。
And then it was covered with gold.
Yes，皂荚木包
It
着。
had 6 pieces and 6 pieces of bread on it.
对，那每一堆的话呢，都有6个饼，
Representative of 12 tribes.
那就是代表着以色列的12个支派。
Reminding of how God takes care of them, looks after them, provides them with everything they need as they're wandering in the wilderness.
那这个是
这就是照顾他们，保护他们，对，让他们免受，就是保护他们，就是免
And every
饥饿
Shabbat,
之苦。
and every Shabbat, every Sabbath, the priests would eat the bread.
那只有的话呢，在安息日的时候的话呢，那利未支派的话呢，可以出来的话呢，吃这个饼。
So, can I ask a question? Is there any significance to
利未支派。
the entrance of the tent being towards the east, towards the rising sun?
I would say so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the tabernacle, the directions are east, west.
那我们的话呢，看那个东边对。
Now, east is usually the directions is associated with idol worship, with pagan worship.
那是那个东边是比较神圣的。
对啊，
But the worship in the tabernacle really is toward the west.
Yeah, I know.
那是的所以的话呢，他们的敬
那个是像是偶像的，所以它要朝西。
对
This is the west.
The west, yeah.
But in the tabernacle, if you want to walk closer to God right now, what direction do you go? You go towards the west.
Yes,
That's
对，
what
因
you
为
have to
东
do.
边是
That's
是偶像的，所以他要转回西边。
If you want to leave God's house, if you want to leave the tabernacle, where do you walk? You walk towards the east. That's where the
门是朝东的，
门是朝东的。
Close the
idol worship is towards the east because that's where sun rises.
他说东边的话呢是太阳升起的地方。
The worship of the tabernacle is towards the west because God is not the sun.
他说神的话呢，他不是太阳。
You turn your backs on the false gods as you're walking to the God of Israel to worship this God.
所以的话呢，我们进来的话呢，之后的话呢，应该要背朝的东边然后就是面对的西边
In
来
the
进
book of
来。
Ezekiel,
嗯，
Ezekiel, the Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, prophet, the prophet, prophet Ezekiel.
这是先知书里头的一个先知书里头
It's a book. It's a
对先知书了，以斯帖吧。
You know Isaiah the prophet?
以赛亚
Okay, so after Isaiah, then there's Jeremiah,
耶利米，
and then after Jeremiah, there's Ezekiel.
耶利米后面是以斯帖。
Yeah. Okay. So in the book of Ezekiel, it talks about 25 people that are in the courtyard where we just were. It's talking about the temple, but it's the same idea, of course. Okay. And it says that they were in the courtyard.
以斯帖书有什么25个人在那个
It says there that their backs are towards God,
对着上帝。
是背是对，
and that their faces are towards the east.
他们的脸朝的东边。
And it says that they were worshiping the sun.
他们去敬拜太阳神。
Okay. So you can see that this is very clear. You're either worshiping this way or worshiping that way. You can't worship both directions at the same time.
对你不能又敬拜神又敬拜假神，那就是这样。
Worshiping one means turning your back on the other.
对你敬拜一个就是你肯定是就背朝
That's
另
what I
外
would
的。
say about the directions.
Interesting. Wow.
This is the altar of incense.
对，那这个的话呢，就是金香
金香
The altar was made out of acacia, the nether tree.
那这整个的话呢，都是由那个皂荚木
And then it was covered in gold.
对，然后呢包金。
And inside there was fire that was brought from the altar outside.
那它这里面的灰的话呢，是要到了外面去。
And here the priests would light incense. You know what incense is? Like you burn it. You take like different ingredients, you burn it, and then
那
it
个
burns and it
香
smells good.
他们的香的话呢，放在里面，然后的话就是给耶和华神介绍的那个香气。香气嘛，对，香气。
So the priests would light incense here in the morning and the evening.
那这个香的话呢，也是由早晨的话呢到晚上。
And here we have the clothing that's described for the priests.
那这边的话呢，就是大祭司，中学对。
So the priests wore a white cap, white tunic, white cap, and a colored sash.
对，那这个祭司的这个是普通的祭司，他是有白色的帽子、白色的衣服、袍子，然后彩色的那个腰带。
The high priest wore a white hat, white tunic, white pants, and a sash on his waist as well.
那是大祭司他的话呢也是白色的帽子衣服然后的话呢外面的话呢再加上一个以弗德。
He wore on his forehead a golden band that says "Holy to the Lord."
对他那是额上的话呢还有一块那个金，对金，就是对以耶和华为圣。
Now, over his white clothing, he wore a blue robe.
那他的白色的衣服外面的还有一个蓝色的衣服。
On the hem of the robe, there was a golden bell.
那对他的衣服的底下的话呢，还有那个金的铃铛。
And on his upper body, he wore the ephod.
那这个马甲一样的，这个就是以弗的。
On the shoulders of the ephod, there were 2 stones.
对，那它的两肩的话呢，是有2块石头。
Engraved onto these stones were 6 names of the children of Israel.
对，那它每个肩上的话呢，有6个支派的名字。
And it was connected to the breastplate.
那这边的话呢，有12颗宝石。
This had 12 stones.
那这里对有12个石头。
These are the names of the
那这
tribes.
里上面的话呢，也是以色列12个支派的名字。
It says that he carries them on his shoulders and on his breastplate as he brings them before God sacrificing for them continuously.
对，他呢把呢以色列的12个支派的话呢，他担在他的肩上，放在他的心里边。
All right. Now that's his work as the high priest.
那这个的话呢是大祭司的工作。
That's all he does. He doesn't finish being a high priest. Only when he dies, then somebody takes his place.
对，但这个工作不会停止的，不会停止。对，所以他呢一直他去世了之后，另外有一个人来继续他的工作。
Now, once a year, the high priest, and only the high priest, can enter into the Holy of Holies.
那这个就是大祭司的话呢，就是1年1次的话呢，才能够进入至圣所。那只有在赎罪日的时候才能够进去。
You would enter on the Day of Atonement with blood from 2 sacrifices.
就是有两个祭物就不让喝，2个祭物的血带上两个。
对，他要进去之前的话呢，他要带上2个祭。
One of them was for his sins, and one of them was for the sins of Israel.
一个是他自己的罪，一个是 people， 就是
对别人的罪，
就2个
And these were both taken in.
他把2个都带进去
And then there was also another sacrifice called the scapegoat. Okay? It's a sin sacrifice. Excuse me. It's a sin sacrifice, but it was taken into the desert. It was thrown out in the
对，
desert.
就是那个赎罪，这个罪祭就罪祭有平安祭啊什么的，那罪嫌祭，他就扔到那个沙漠外面打的。
It was a symbol of how God takes the sin away from the camp. The sin is taken from the people. It's put on this animal, and the animal is thrown in the camp.
他的话呢，就是把那些就是寄生的话呢，就是撒在外面然后的话呢，再进来里边。
Before the high priest goes inside, he takes from the fire and 2 handfuls of incense, and he lights it inside the Holy of Holies.
OK， 那他说他的大祭司的进去之后的话，那他手上的话要拿着火
And then he changes.
那然后的话呢，他
He
换了
wears
衣服。
only white when he goes inside.
对他进去的话呢，就是他把这外面的衣服都换掉，就穿这个里面白色的衣服进
So
入。
let's enter, and I'll keep explaining.
对了，
那他不穿那个打铃铛的死掉怎么办呢？
So as you're entering, you're going past this screen, which is called the Pavochet. That's the name of this.
那他们的话呢，从那个外面的圣所的话呢，进入这个至圣所，它里面的话就是有一个幔子来
And
着。
past it, that's where we are right now, is where the Ark of the Covenant was kept.
那我们的话呢，进入这个至圣所里面的话呢，这个呢是约柜。
The Ark was made of wood and covered with gold.
那它同样的话呢，也是用皂荚木包金制作的。
The lid of the Ark was made of solid gold.
那它这的话呢，上面的话呢是有那个2个的基路伯。
And on it, there were 1 cherubim on either end.
对，这是2个基路伯，他们是就是
With their faces downward, their faces were downward towards the center.
对，你看他的这个脸是朝着底下的。
And their wings were spread up and over the Ark.
那它的2个翅膀的话呢是相对的。
In Exodus chapter 25, the second book of Moses.
那是在出埃及记。
You know Genesis, Exodus?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Exodus chapter 25,
25章。
God says that he will speak and he will appear, he'll actually show up between the cherubims and the tablet. Right here in the center, God says that he'd be speaking from them.
他神说他自己就是那个施恩的座，施恩座。
Right? And inside the ark, you have the 2 stone tablets, the 10 commandments.
那在这里边的话呢，有2个法版。
So those were the second ones, because Moses broke the first ones.
那总共有2个，因为摩西不是摔碎了一个嘛，后来的话呢，又重新再弄了一个，这是
You
第
also
2个。
had in the Holy of Holies a bowl of manna.
那这里面的话呢，还有圣马拿的金冠。
And it was put here to remind everybody that God had provided them for those 40 years in the desert.
对他们的话呢，以色列人出埃及的时候，在旷野40年，就是靠吃马拿为生。
You also had the staff of Aaron.
那还有的话呢，是亚伦发芽的杖。
The staff was to remind everyone not to rebel against God.
那亚伦的杖的话呢，开始它是没有发芽的。
Now the high priest would enter here on the Day of Atonement
对的，后来呢，放到这里边的话呢，他就迅速就发了芽
with。the blood,
对，
and he would sprinkle 7 times. Yeah, you know the blood? Yeah, and he would dip his fingers and he would sprinkle 7 times.
他说他的那个手血弹7次。对。
Yeah, and then also in front of the ark.
那还有的话呢，就他在地上。
And then on the altar of incense, and the altar of sacrifices outside.
就是这里边是不是还有外面？对。
Yeah, and then you would change. Remember, in here you wore only white, but outside you had to go full.
那这里的是穿白色的，去蓝色的。
Right, and they continued any more sacrifices outside.
那他们在就是叫做罪啊。
Can I ask, so everything here is basically actual size as described in the
Yeah, it's
Torah?
not possible.
As
If
much-
it's not described, then we have to put something.
Right,
The thickness of the ark, which isn't described.
Right.
We know that it was 1.5 by 1.5 by 2.5.
right.
This was 1.5 by 10, but no thick. So whatever there is in the measurement, you have to-
So how do you what's your personal opinion about measurements that are not mentioned in the Torah that are filled in by the rabbis? Do you think they just made it up, or they personally?
Okay, there's a video there. And let's see. Oops. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, so stop the video there. And so that was a recording of our visit to Timna Park in 2019 to visit a life-size replica of the tabernacle, which, again, as I said, picture's worth 1,000 words. Rather than sitting here and saying, "Oh, the hooks were over here," and this, it doesn't make any sense to do that. So it's better to see things visually rather than try to put these things. Even Moshe was shown this visually, as we said, right? And that was in. Is it raining outside? And that was in Exodus. I'm going to go with, let's see, around 22, if I'm not mistaken. No. 21. I can't find it now. At any rate, we know that Moshe was brought up onto the mountain and shown this visually. So if he was shown this visually, then certainly we have to be shown this visually. But we're going to read through it a little bit more right now. And so those are the materials, okay? Now we're up to Exodus 35:10. Again, if there are any questions, any comments, please stop me. And let me reset here the settings. There we go. And I can stick my face down there. I can get rid of this. Okay, so we're in Exodus 35:10. וכל חכם לב בכם יבואו ויעשו את כל אשר ציווה יהוה את המשכן ואת אוהלו ואת מכסהו. So the Mishkan is the tabernacle. Ohalo is the tent around it. So if we, let's see how we can do this. Maybe I can bring up, no, I can't do it at the same time, can I? Let's see how I can do this. Let's see how I can do this. Share the entire screen. Maybe that's what I need to do. No, I'm not going to do that. That'll be just too complicated, I think. Wait 1 second. If I do it this way, and then this way, I guess we could do it that way. So let's try that. If I share the entire screen, stop screen, share. Share screen, entire screen. Let's see if this is going to work. No, it's going to be too complicated. Oh, let's see. Maybe I could do a screenshot. Ah, that's what I can do. If I want to point something out, I could do a screenshot and then bring it up. So let's do that. So just give me 1 second here. Bear with me, please. Let's get kind of a overall view. There we go. I could do a screenshot. And I could pop this onto the desktop. And then I can open it here. I think that will work. So I think now you can see that if I switch to this, now I've got share screen, window, and there we go. So if I show that, so you can see that, get a general vision. So this is the Mizbeach here, right in the front. Okay, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around. I'm hoping so. But right here in the front, this is the altar. Okay, this here is the Mishkan. Okay, so this is the actual tabernacle here, and this is the tent. These all around it, these fabric pieces. You can see that's the tent around the tabernacle. So when it says here, Et Mishkan, okay. So where it says Et Mishkan, the tabernacle, we're talking about this tent, this inner tent. Okay, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around. I'm hoping so. When it says here, the Ohalo, the tent, we're talking about the outer covering. I'm sorry, we're talking. This would be the tent here, right here. Okay, this would be the Mishkan, the central structure. Okay, and et Michsehu. So Michsehu are the covers. We'll see that in a second. In fact, let me see if I can get a picture of the covers. So I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to move this ahead. Let's get a picture of the covers. Yeah, so these are the covers. Oops. Right there, it's good enough. No, that's not a good one. 1 second here. There, that's perfect. Let's bring that up. So, let me open that up. Just take a second here. Right, so that's the covers, okay? So the covers were made out of shesh. They were made out of izim. They were made out of orot, elim, ma'adamim, and then they were made out of tachashim. So you can see 4 covers here. 1, 2, 3, 4 in different colors: the blue, the pink, the red, and the beige. And then that blue again is just part of the first one. So those are the covers that are being spoken about here. Michsehu. So this is what we're talking about. Okay. So when it says the Mishkan, Ohalo and Michsehu, the Mishkan is the central structure here. The Ohalo is this tent that goes over the Mishkan, and then Michsehu are these covers that go over that central structure. Okay, just to put everything in perspective. Okie dokie. Et krasav. So krasav is clasps. Et krashav, et birihav, et amudav, et adonav. So these are all the things basically which hold it all together. Okay. So clasps, krashav is its boards, its bars, its pillars, and its sockets. So these are all the things that are going to be holding together the Mishkan and perhaps the tent around it. Okay. So that's what we're talking about there. Et Aron. So this is the Ark of the Covenant. Again, let's bring up a picture of the Ark of the Covenant, at least the Timna Park version of the Ark of the Covenant. Oops. And let's see. There we go. There's our Ark of the Covenant. Get a little bit of a better version. 1 second, please. Now we'll do it from here. Okay. Oops. No, let's do it over here. There we go. Good enough. So this is our Ark of the Covenant, Aron. Let's open that up. Okay, there's our Ark of the Covenant with people who are not the high priests in it. So that's that, right? But you all knew that already. It's Badav. The Badav are the poles that are used to carry it. And with the Ark of the Covenant, those poles are in there permanently. Okay. So these are the Badav here. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving, but this is one pole, and this is the other pole, one in front of it and one behind it. Those are its carrying poles. And for the other vessels or for the other tables, the carrying poles can be taken in and out, but for the Ark of the Covenant, it always stays in. The kaporet is the cover. Some relate that word to kippur and translate that also as the mercy seat. But the kaporet is this ark cover, the cover over the ark here, where you see the two cherubim that are looking down towards the ark cover, and their wings are touching. Okay, that's the kaporet. The parochet is this. Let's see if we can find it. Parochet HaMasach. So the parochet is going to be the cover that separates the Holy of Holies from the rest of the holy of the tabernacle itself, right? So let's see if we can get a picture of that. One second here. One second. So there it is, but I've got to screenshot it. No, I'm not going to do it. You get the idea, okay? So that's that. But shulchan, it's a shulchan with badav. So the shulchan is talking about the showbread, the showbread table. Let's see if we can find that. Come here, showbread table. So that's outside the Holy of Holies in the holy area. There it is. Maybe I can get a slightly better view. No, let me just do it right there. So that's a showbread table. Open that up. And when you walk into the holy area, into the tabernacle, one second, then this is going to be on the right, if I'm not mistaken. So the Holy of Holies is, you're walking west towards the Holy of Holies. So the showbread is going to be, no, actually, I think it's on the left. So it's going to be facing south, and the menorah is going to be facing north, if I'm not mistaken. At any rate, and its poles and its vessels, etc. Lechem apanim, the showbread, right? So bread was replaced once a week. What menorah ma'or? So then you have the menorah. Ve'et keleha, ve'et neroteha, ve'et shemen ma'or. That's the menorah, and the incense altar, etc., etc. Maybe we could find actually a layout of the tabernacle. Tabernacle of Moses. Let's see here. Maybe this one. Truth, the way, the life. Oh my God. I don't know what the hell that means, but okay, whatever. Okay. Let's blow this up a little bit. Okay, so here we have it. Okay, forget this truth and way and life stuff and forget all this Christian nonsense. But there we go. Okay, so this is a general layout. Okay, so this is the parochet over here. This is the Ark of the Covenant. That's the incense altar. So you walk into the holy area, the holy place. Okay, you've You got the menorah on the left. So this is west, and here you can see clearly south, north. So you walk in, the menorah is on the left to the south. The showbread is on the right to the north. The incense altar, and et cetera, et cetera. So we can refer to that if we need to. All right. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because this is just explaining the different parts. We know the parts, okay? Kila'eh Hatzer. So Kila'eh Hatzer, the Kela is the hangings or the curtains. So this is referring now to, let's see if it shows it here. This basically this covering all around here. Let's see if I can find it. These fabric, basically this fabric fence surrounding the entire area. That would be the Kala'eh Hatzer. Okay? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So the point here is that okay, so all of those who are artisans or of wise heart came and to do this work. Okay, all of these various works. Okay, verse 20. So out came all the witnesses of the children of Israel, or we're calling this adat. I believe it's related to the word eid, although there's some indication that maybe it's related to the word ya'ad or mo'ed. But adat b'nei Israel, we're going to call that the not the congregation, but the community, the witnessing community, maybe I'll call it, of the children of Israel, milifnei Moshe. So all of the witnessing community of the children of Israel came out before Moshe. I wonder how Robert Alter translates that. So this is Exodus 35:20. Let's take a look. Well, let's see how Everett Fox translates it. So he translates that as Exodus 35:20. Okay, so he just calls it community. Robert Alter, community, same thing. It's 35:20, community. Okay, so that being said, Yavo kol ish asher nas'o libo, and everyone came, every man asher nis'o libo, who nis'o libo, literally he raised up his heart. So who's the he? Is it talking about he raised up his own heart, or is it talking about God raised up his heart? I believe it's talking about God raised up his heart, okay? Because it's called Hakham Melech. In other words, God put this kind of wisdom, heart wisdom inside people. So Asher Nis'o libo, who God raised up his heart, B'chol Asher Nidavar Rucho, and all whose spirit moved, I guess we can translate it as Nidavar Rucho Oto. Heviu et Terumat Yehovah. So that's also ambiguous. The subject here is ambiguous. Is it the person, Nidavar Rucho Oto, or is God the subject? All right, let's try to see if we can get a little perspective from different commentators. So this is Exodus 35:21. And every man whose heart moved him, and everyone whose spirit urged him came. So according to Robert Alter, it's the person himself as the subject, not that God moved his heart, he moved his own heart. And here, 35, what do we say? According to Everett Fox, and it came every man whose mind uplifted him, and every one whose spirit made him willing. So there we go. So in both of those, good commentators say that it's speaking about the person himself, not that God moved his heart or raised up his heart, and God made his spirit, moved his spirit, I guess we could say, but that he himself. Okay, Asher nis'o libo, b'chol asher nadva rucho. So I guess we can even tell from here, because this is the pa'al form, nadva. And we could see that actually rucho oto. But then again, rucho could be God's spirit rather than his own spirit. Okay, nas'o libo. So nis'o. This is going to be the Pa'al form in the past, or the perfect form, Nisa'o libo. So his heart raised him up, or his heart raised up, or his heart raised up. Okay, so I think that based on that, we could see that that is the correct translation. I'm not going to get bogged down there. Let's go on. So they brought all of their donations. Verse 22, so here it says not only did the men, but also the men and the women. Hanashim al hanashim. Al in this case means with or together with, right? Literally on top of, but not in a physical sense. So v'yavo anashim al hanashim, the men came along with the women. Let's translate that way. Kol nediv lev, view hach onezim v'tabaat v'kumaz kol kli zahav. So all of these people, what did they bring? They brought hach. That's usually translated as earrings, nezim, nose rings, although in other places we saw it translated as earrings, but I've always understood as nose ring, tabaat, rings, kumaz, necklaces, kol kli zahav. So they're bringing all of their jewelry basically, and all of their gold vessels. V'kol ish asher hinif tnufat zahav lihoah. And literally, every man who asher hinif tnufat zahav lihoah, who waved a wave offering of gold to Yehovah. So that's an interesting statement. Let's see. So here it's translated as brooch, and nose ring, and signet ring, and necklace, and every kind of gold object. Every man that wished to elevate an elevation offering of gold to Yehovah is how Everett Fox translates that one. It's Exodus 35:22. Robert Alter, and then the men came besides the women, all whose heart urged them. They brought brooches and earrings and rings and pendants, every ornament of gold, and every man who raised an elevation offering to gold to the Lord. Okay, so translating as an elevation offering. Okay, this also could be translated as a wave offering. Okay, and let's even look at this word a little bit more closely. Swinging, waving, wave offering, right? Like Knufat Omer. So the underlying root is okay, to move to and fro, to wave, to sprinkle. Let's look at the BDB for a second. Same thing. Nuf. So that's the underlying, that is the underlying root. Okay. So that's that. Oops. So wave offering or an elevation offering, however you want to translate it. So basically, they brought it kind of as an offering to God, right? All of this gold. So those are all the different materials that we've spoken about before, right? Listed here, we've spoken about them a bunch of times before. Kor merim trumat kesef unechoshet heviu et trumat Yehovah. And anyone who chose to lift up, chose to bring up a donation of silver and bronze. So before we had gold, here we have silver and bronze. So they brought that, and also it's a shittim, acacia wood. So what does acacia wood look like? Let's look at an acacia tree. As the guide said, there are many different types of acacia trees, but nonetheless, here's one example. Okay, so that's acacia tree. This is the one I'm most familiar with because this is the type that grows around Jerusalem. It has these beautiful flowers in the springtime, which have kind of a very subtle, sweet scent. No. So that's acacia, etc. Right? We'll just read through because it's not really that much to say here, except they're bringing all the different types of materials that we already know are being used to build the Mishkan. Okay. V'chol isha chachmat lev. Now all the women biyadeha biyadeh tavu. ויביאו מתווה את התכלת ואת הארגמן ואת תורת השני ואת השש. So these are the different types of fabrics, right? So this is Exodus 35:25. Let's look at a couple translations there. Every woman of wise mind who's with their hands, they spun and brought their spinning. Okay? The blue violet, the purple, the warm scarlet, and the byssus. Here we have every woman wise-hearted with her hands spun and brought the thread work of indigo and purple and crimson and linen. So tavu again is the verb, right? Spun, biyadeh tavu. So to spin, in other words, to spin yarn, and this only appears really twice in the entire Tanakh. So I guess it's being understood from context. So this is now changing this verb or this underlying root into a noun. That's what you're talking about before, Volk. The mem before, matveh, for spinning, and then we have the four types of fabric that are being mentioned, right? The blue, the sky blue, the purple, the violet, the crimson, and usually translated as fine linen, or as we said, the sea silk or byssus threads, byssus fabric. 26. V'chol hanashim asher nasa liban. Otana v'chochma tavu et ha'izim. So then there were other ones who sewed together the izim, the she-goat fabrics. Nisi'im heviu et avnei shoham. So the heads of the tribes, the nisi'im, the princes, it's often translated as, or the avnei shoham. So shoham, again, we don't know exactly what it is. It's usually translated as onyx. And as we saw before in the video, but let's find it again. So the onyx, let's see if we can find this for a second. There we go. Let's get a good, there we go, good view of the high priest. So good enough. Let's bring this picture up. Close this out. We can leave this. We can leave this for now, and let's open this up. And we'll put this over here. Okay. So here we go. The onyx. So if you could see on the, so this is the ephod here, this kind of shoulder pad thingy. And on the shoulder pad is the shoham. There are two shoham stones. Onyx stones is usually the way it's translated, one on each shoulder. And each one has 6 of the tribes of Israel in the order of their birth. And then here it's attached to the Hoshen Mishpat, which is usually understood as the breastplate of judgment. And there are 12 stones. So we have 4 rows, each with 3 stones in it, again with the 12 tribes mentioned individually. And one of the stones is onyx. But the reason that onyx or shoham is mentioned separately is because it's the stone used on these shoulder pads right here. That's specifically shoham stone. Okay. So that's that. And Avnei Miluim, the setting stones, those are the 12 different types of stones that are used for the Hoshen Mishpat. Wa'et, Bosem, Wa'et Hashamin. So the Bosem is for the Ketoret, for the incense, shaman, that's olive oil for the lemaor, for the candelabra, for the menorah, uleshemen mishcha, and for the anointing oil, ulektoret hasamim, and also to make the the whatchamacallit, the incense. כל איש או אישה אשר נדב ליבם אותם להביא לכל המלאכה אשר ציווה יהוה לעשות ביד משה הביאו בני ישראל נדבה ליהוה. So that basically says that they brought all these different materials, right? Men and women. The women focused on bringing their jewelry or whatever they had and doing the sewing, and the men brought some of the other stuff, and that's it. So that's the way that the materials for the tabernacle were gathered. They were gathered through the children of Israel through bringing them as donations. Vayomer Moshe el bnei Israel. We're in verse 30 now, Exodus 35:30. Vayomer Moshe el bnei Israel re'u kra Yehovah b'shem B'tzalel ben Uri ben Hur. So we explained earlier that this B'tzalel ben Uri ben Hur, his grandfather Hur, okay, was one of the people who held up. Excuse me for 1 second. Hold on. So Hur was one of the two people. He and Aaron held up Moshe's hands when Yahushua went out to fight the Israelites. Okay, we also saw that Hur so where is it? Hine Aaron Hur imachem. So that's when he was chosen. Hur. Let me just see. So what is this here? This is Numbers 31:8. Okay, so that's the Balaam story. And it's mentioned also in Joshua. Let's see what's going on in Joshua. Those are the same ones. That's with Balaam. So this is Hur. Okay, so Hur is from the tribe of Yehuda, and he's a well-known entity already. And his grandson Bezalel is the one who's basically the chief artisan for the building of the tabernacle. Okay, Yimale oto ruach Elohim, and he filled him with God filled him with the Spirit of God. Right? Who's the who? He. The he is who? Is God. Ruach Elohim b'chokhmah, with wisdom. Turuna, usually translated understanding. B'da'at, knowledge. B'chol milacha, and the ability to do all kinds of work. And again, it literally says, and with all work, but that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so here we see again where the word milacha is used to the outcome is used to represent the cause. So we can translate this as with the b'chol milacha, and the ability to do all kinds of work. Okay, again, let's see how some of the translators deal with this. So that is Exodus 35:31. In practical wisdom and discernment, and in knowledge, and in all kinds of workmanship. Okay, that's not a very good translation. Let's see how Robert Alter deals with it. So once again, that is 35:31. It's filled him with the Spirit of God and wisdom, in understanding and in knowledge, and in every task. Okay, again, I don't think these are good translations here, because it's what does that mean? He filled him with the Spirit of God in every task. It should be more like in understanding every task, is the implied word that doesn't appear here. But okay. All right, verse 32. לחשוב מחשבות, לעשות בזהב ובכסף ובנחושת. So lachshov machshavot, in Hebrew, lachshov means to think, and machshavot means thoughts. So it doesn't mean to think thoughts. It really means to create art. Lachshov machshavot means to create artisanally, or so a machshavot would be more like an artisanal creation, right? So again, let's see how some of the translations deal with it. So it's 32. To design designs, to make them in gold and silver and bronze. It's Everett Fox. 32. To devise plans, to work in gold and silver and in bronze. Okay? And let's take a look at this word lachshov. So to think, account, think, account, devise, plan, mean, invent ingenious and artistic things. So that's really the idea here, right? So yeah, it does have the meaning of intend or think or mean, right? Like in Genesis 50:20. This is the Yosef story, right? This is Yosef speaking to his brothers. And it says in Genesis 50:20, okay, you intended upon me evil, you thought to do me evil, okay? Elohim hashva letova, but God, implied word but, God intended for good, or God thought to do good. Lem'an aso hayom hazeh lahayot amrav, in order that he should do, in order that today, or in order to make it such that today he is kept alive a great people, a large amount of people. Okay? So lachshov in this case just means to intend, to think, right? But in the case here, okay, lachshov machshavot. So to design designs, right? I guess is a decent translation. Or to devise plans. But really here it has more lachshov machshavot lasot bezahav. Yeah, maybe to make designs or to design designs, I think is actually a very good translation. Okay, to think, but specifically in the case of making artistic plans, right? Okay. Lehorot. What's going on here? Lehorot Natan bilibo hu wa Holiav ben Isamach lematedan. And also to instruct, not only to devise the plans, not only to basically be an artisan, but also to instruct others. Okay. So, and the ability to instruct he's put in his mind. He and Oholiav, son of Samach of the tribe of Dan. Okay. So to basically to run the show from the artistic point of view, right? He's the artistic director, and his assistant artistic director is Oholiav. Okay, and this Oholiav guy is only mentioned, unlike Uri, sorry, Betzal, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, Oholiav is only mentioned with respect to the building of the tabernacle. In fact, he's only mentioned, first time is in Exodus 31. The last time he's ever mentioned, at least according to this, is in Exodus 38. Okay? And his father is not mentioned anywhere as far as I can see, except with respect to him, Achi Samach. So again, only with respect to his son, Oholiav. Okay? So, my battery is about to go dead. I'll go charge in a second. Bileotam chokhmat lev la'asot kol malechet haresh v'choshev v'rokem tcheret u'ba'argaman u'b'tola'at shani v'sheish v'orge oseh kol melacha v'choshvei machshavot. Okay, so he filled them with wisdom of heart to do all kinds of works of harash. So harash is literally to plow or to cut into, right? Like when you plow, you cut into the ground. But here they usually translate as engraving, okay? And we did see what was supposed to be engraved. I'm trying to remember now. There was one thing that was, it was poured and then it was engraved. We spoke about it last week and I can't remember right now. Maybe I can find it. No, I guess it's okay. So I guess it is. So this is speaking about the 10 Commandments or the tablets. Right. Harash. But then there was another related word, Heresh. Let's see if we can grab that. I can't find it right now. Okay, we're going to skip that. So, Harash is the Melechet Harash is engraving work. V'choshev, and so this is the same word. This is like designing work, I guess. You can translate it as. Okay, workmanship, the jewel cutter, the designer, right? So it's more of a general term, I suppose. Wa rokem is a rikma, or rokem means to make fabrics, to embroider. And these are the 4 types of fabric that we see again and again. Okay, sky blue, violet, crimson, and usually translated as fine linen. Oreg, wa oreg. Okay, so oreg is to weave. Sekol melacha. So do all of the works and choshvei machshavot and to design designs, right? So that's that. All right, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to put music on for 5 minutes, and I'm going to go get my charger and charge, and then we can continue. Let's see what we have here. Let's do this a little bit differently. Nope, that's not going to work. Where is it that I always used to listen to? Okay, this will work. No. All right, let's just go for this. Okay, we are back. Let's reshare the screen. There we go. Alrighty, so that pretty much does it for Exodus 35. Let's go on to Exodus 36. I'm going to read through. If I have something to say, I will stop. Or alternatively, we can try to take a commentary to get some conversation going here. Let's see, maybe that's a good idea. Take Robert Alters again. Okay, so B'Tzalel Oholiav v'chol ish chacham lev asher natan Yehovah chokhmah. So this time it is God gave them wisdom. Utvuna bahema. Bahema in what? Gave them wisdom and understanding in what? And all the things that were mentioned before, right? The weaving and the designing and the engraving. Lasot kol malechet avodat hakodesh. Do all the malechet avodat hakodesh, the tasks of the holy work or of the holy devotion. Let's read that one more time. According to all that Yehovah commanded. Verse 2, Vayikra Moshe el B'Tzalel wa'el Oholiav wa'el kol ish chacham lev asher natan Yehovah chokhmah belibo kol asher nas'o libo lekarva el hamelacha le'asot ota ויקחו מלפני משה את כל התרומה אשר הביאו בני ישראל למלאכת עבודת הקודש. So now Moshe is transferring all of the stuff that was gathered to the artisans, right? To B'Tzalel, Oholiav, and the entire artisanal crew. למלאכת עבודת הקודש לעשות אותה והם הביאו אליו עוד נדבה בבוקר. But the Israelites kept on giving. All right, so let's get some commentary here to get the conversation going. I wish there was someone in the room who would who we could get the conversation going with, but there's not in the StreamYard. So we'll do it this way. So the Hebrew nidava, here a collective noun, which was mentioned in the previous chapter 35:29, is derived from the same verb. So he's talking about nidava in Exodus 36:3. Right? ויקחו מלפני משה את כל התרומה אשר הביאו בני ישראל למלאכת עבודת הקודש לעשות אותה והם הביאו אליו Od nidava, more donations. So as he said, nidava, okay? So nadav means to be generous or to have, how would you translate it? Free will offering, right? So free will offerings. So this is in the singular, but it represents the plural. It's kind of a singular abstract representing the totality of all of the free will offerings. So here, Robert Alter says the Hebrew nidava, here collective noun, right? Which was mentioned in the previous chapter 35. Well, can you turn those things off, please? 35:29 is derived from the same verb nadav that occurs repeatedly in the references to each man's heart, urging him to offer a gift. In this passage, the theme of Israelite generosity for the construction of the tabernacle as a resounding reversal of the ill-considered donations. The golden calf is given a climactic flourish. The donations go over the top, and the people have to be held back from giving further. Okay, interesting comment. So that's verse 5, right? Verse 4, we're in ויבואו כל החכמים העושים את כל מלאכת קודש, איש ממלאכתו אשר הם עושים. So all of the different types of artisans came, each according to what he does. ויאמרו, verse 5, אל משה לאמור, מרבים העם להביא מידי העבודה. So Moshe, so the artisan said to Moshe, the people are bringing too much, more than is required for the avodah limelacha, for the for the work according to the tasks that Yehovah commanded to do them, right? So basically the people are bringing too much. And this is verse 5. So 36:5. It said to Moshe, the people are bringing much more than enough for the service. So that's the way to translate avodah, the service of doing the work that Yehovah has commanded to make it, right? Verse 6, Vayitzav Moshe v'ya'aviru kol b'machaneh. So Moshe commanded, and a proclamation was passed throughout the camp. Lemor ish va'isha asher al ya'asu od melacha l'trumat hakodesh. So each man and woman should not do any more. Lo ya'asu od melacha, should not bring any more material. Basically, again, this is the word melacha, which means work, being used to represent the material required for the work. Okay, and let's see how that's translated here. For instance, in Everett Fox, it's verse 6. So Moshe commanded, and had a call go out throughout the camp, saying, men and women, let them not make ready any further work material, right? So he translates that as work material, showing that that milacha, which really means work, is talking about the antecedent to the work, the material needed for the work, okay? For the contribution of the holy shrine, so the people were stopped from bringing. Okay? Shisha al yasub od milacha letrumat kodesh wa yikaleha am mehavi. Okay? And the people were prevented or were stopped, as Everett Fox translated it as. Let's see Robert Alter's translation there. Or if he has any comments, do no further task. They're actually not doing. That is the responsibility of the craftsman giving. Task milacha here is extended in meaning to refer to the materials necessary for the carrying out of the task that the people bring. That is clearly the meaning of the first occurrence of task in the next verse. This is exactly what we were saying this morning and this afternoon, right? That when it says milacha, which means the task or the work, it really means the material required for the work. The outcome is being replaced with the prerequisite, or the result is being replaced with the cause is being replaced with the result. So the prerequisite is being replaced with the outcome, and the cause is being replaced with the result, right? And we see this specifically a lot with this word milacha, but we also saw it in Exodus 35:3 with regard, at least in my understanding, with lo tiv'aru esh. Okay. And so the same in the next verse, in 7. So it doesn't mean that the word milacha again means work. That's its basic meaning. But it's not that the work was too much, because we're not talking about the work. It's the material was too much. So this means the material required for the work, or as Everett Fox translates it, the work material, right? That's how he kind of gets around it, right? The work material. It really means just material, but he cleverly translates it as work material to show that the literal meaning of the word is work, but the implied meaning is the material. So he puts them both together, translated as work material. I think that's an excellent way to translate it. Let's see how Robert Alter translates it. So 36:7. And the task was enough to do all the task and more. So he just translates it literally, but then he gives his comments, right? So that doesn't make sense. And the task was enough to do all the task and more? That's ridiculous, right? That is a nonsensical translation. But he's trying to be literal, because it does say the word milacha, but he does down here explain it, right? That doesn't really mean task. And that was his comment over here. Okay, they're actually not doing that as the responsibility of the craftsman, but giving. Task milacha here is extended in meaning to refer to the materials necessary for the carrying out of the task that the people bring, right? So I don't think his translation is good is as good in this case as Everett Fox's translation, who really is able to fuse the two meanings, the literal meaning and the actual meaning, together by calling it work material. I actually like the way he dealt with that. Okay. So the work material was enough for all of the work to do. Dayam l'chol hamelacha le'asot tav yoter. For all of the work to do it and more. Okay, so there was more than enough material. Verse 8. So let's see when Robert Alter's next comment is. The text now launches, so this is 8 to 38, upon one of its most extravagant deployments of verbatim repetition. This particular segment corresponds precisely to 26:1 through 32, the only notable difference being that the imperative verbs of the instruction passage are converted into past verbs for the implementation passage, with the obvious implication that God's directions for the construction of the tabernacle are now carried out with scrupulous fidelity to every single detail by Bezalel and his work crews. In biblical narrative, these lists scarcely qualify as that. Virtually every small swerve from verbatim repetition in repeated passages is a node of new meaning. But here, the variance between the two versions is quite marginal and is by no means a vehicle of signification. God, the guy writes sometimes in such highfalutin language. What really matters is the repetition itself, the fact that the tabernacle is now faithfully assembled in all its prescribed splendid details. It should be noted that all of the verbs for making in this passage, beginning with "they made them" in verse 8, are in the singular in the Hebrew. The singular is presumably used because the writer has in mind every wise-hearted man who is engaged in the building. Hebrew usage slips back and forth easily from plural to singular in such cases, as I've said many times, right? Number does not always agree. Gender does not always agree. The initial "made" in verse 8 is in the plural. Okay, we'll see that as we go through the text. So what he's basically saying is that this is a repetition of 26:1 through 32. Well, let's check that out. Let's see if that really is the case. So here's Exodus 26:1. So, ויעשו כל חכם לב ועושה מלאכה את המשכן 10 יריות 6 משזר, and here it says, ואת המשכן תעשה 10 יריות 6 משזר, תכלת וארגמן תולעת שני, קרובים מעשה חושב תעשה אותם. And here it says 6 משזר, תכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני, קרובים מעשה חושב עשה אותם, right? So that's exactly as he was pointing out. Here, עשה אותם, this is the command form, okay? And here it is the indicative form, okay, that they were done, okay? Asautam, indicative or the indicative perfect form, okay? Orcha yiriot echad shmona v'esrim ba'ama. So orcha yiriot echad shmona v'esrim ba'ama v'rochav arba ba'ama v'hayiriot echad mida echad lechol hayiriot. So it's basically verbatim repetition, as Robert Alter pointed out. This is in Exodus 36:10. And here we have so this is speaking about the curtains over the tabernacle, okay? So basically, it seems like a verbatim repetition, right? I'm not going to go through and compare it word for word, but we get the idea, right? Let's see. Does that here? וכן תעשה בשפת יריות הקיצונה במחברת השנית. So it goes on. 50 לולאות עשה ביריעה אחד ו50 לולאות עשה בקצה יריעה אשר במחברת השנית. So this is talking about the yiriot. So these are, again, once again, these are the coverings over the tabernacle. Let's just see here for 1 second. Yeah. One second. וזאת יריעה קיצונית במחברת השני והחמישה לולאות עשה ביריעה אחד, etc., etc. So basically, we're talking about the coverings over the tabernacle. These are, if I can find them, these things right here. Okay, these are the different coverings over the tabernacle. אורך היריעה האחד 28 באמה, so 28 ama, 28 how do you say ama again in English? Cubits. רחב 4 באמה, יריעה אחד, מידה אחד לכל היריעה. 5 יריות תהיינה חוברות אישה אל אחותה, ו5 יריות חוברות אישה אל אחותה. עשית לולאות תכלת על שפת היריעה האחד, קצה בחוברת, וכן תעשה בשפת היריעה הקיצונית במחברת השנית. So this is speaking about, so there are 5 curtains, right? And here we can see the 5 curtains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And they're each joined by these lulaot, by these loops. Let's just go through this one more time from verse 8. ויעשו כל חכם לב בעושי המלאכה את המשכן 10 יריעות. So a total of 10 of these coverings, right? 6 משסר, תכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני. So they're to be made of, again, this is fine linen or byssus, twined is usually, this is way that's translated. Tchelet, argaman, tola'at shani. So like sky blue, violet, crimson. Kruvim ma'aseh choshev asaotam. And they're going to have the cherubim embroidered upon them. Okay? And that's what we see here in this picture. So there are 5 of these curtains here. They have cherubim, right? They have the ark, basically the design of the ark cover, or that a cherub, an angel with wings embroidered on them. And there are 10 of them altogether. 5 יריות תהיינה חוברות אישה אל אחותה, ו5 יריות חוברות אישה אל אחותה. So 5 are going to be connected, and then another 5 are going to be connected. Okay? So how is the ark cover done? I guess it's done through basically, not the ark cover, the covering of the tabernacle. So how is the covering of the tabernacle done? One second. So I guess there are basically 2 big coverings, and each one is made out of 5 sheets of fabric. Okay? Yas lulaot are loops. Tchelet al sfat yiriyah echad mikatza b'machberet. במחברת, כן עשה בשפת היריעה הקיצונה במחברת השנית. So if I understand what it's saying there, it's basically saying that there are going to be loops running up and down the edges of each of these coverings, and that's the way they're going to be looped into the next one that way. Right? Let's see how some of the translations deal with that. So that is Exodus 36:10. So Exodus 36:10. They were joined 5 of the tapestries, each one to each one, and 5 tapestries were joined each one to each one. Then were made loops of blue violet on the edge of the one tapestry at the end of the one joint. Thus were made in the edge of the end of the tapestry at the second joint. So basically it's saying that's the way they're going to be held together. They're going to be loops. Okay, 50 loops were made on one tapestry, and 50 loops were made at the end of the tapestry that is at the second joint. opposite the loops, that is this one to that one, right? So that's the way they're joined together with these lulaot, these loops. Then we're made 50 clasps of gold in it, and then we're joined the tapestry, this one to that one with the clasp, so that the dwelling became one piece. So it's a bit difficult to visualize, but I think what's going on is that I guess the loops are held together with the clasps, right? The loops are held together with the clasps. Okay. יעש 50 קרסי זהב, יחבר את יריעה אחד אל אחד בקרסים ויהי משכן אחד. So there were 50 clasps joining each of the two tapestries together. Again, we can kind of see this in the picture here. Well, you can't see the clasps and the loops, but that's the way these 5 were joined together. So I guess it's 5 on one side and 5 on the other side, I'm guessing. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. So that's that. Okay. The 11 curtains of goat's hair. Again, let's go back to Robert Alter and see what he has to say. Then he goes on already to chapter 37. So we can go through the rest of chapter 36 here. So this, again, is just supposed to be repetition of 26. Boards and sockets, the veil, the curtain for the door. Here we have boards and sockets, bars, the veil, the curtains for the door. Okay, the curtains of goat's hair. Ya'as yiriot izim le'ohel ala mishkan wa'ashte asar yiriot asa otam. So now we're talking about the tent that goes over the tabernacle. So again, let's see here. So in the center is the tabernacle that has those 10 coverings of the different types of fabric. And then here's the tent around it, and that's made of, what did we say? Yiriot izim. So that's made of goat hairs tapestries, right? Tapestries made out of goat hair. So that triangular or that pyramidal tent that goes around it, those are the goat hair tapestries that covers the tabernacle. Okay? So, אורך היריעה האחד 30 באמה, 4 אמות רוחב. So 30 cubits long, 5 cubits wide. Okay, what was the length of the underlying fabrics, right? אורך היריעה אחד, this is in verse 9, 18 באמה ורוחב 4 באמה. So each one of the underlying tapestries was 18 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. And then the overcovering ones are 30 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. So they're the same width, but they have a longer length. Okay? And there are 12 of them. I'm sorry, 11 of them. So there are 11 tapestries made out of this goat's hair. They're basically almost double the length of the underlying tapestries, right? And they form the tent around the tabernacle. Yahaber et hamish yiriot lavad vet shesh yiriot lavad. So 5 are joined together, and then 6 are joined together. V'yaslu leot hamishim asfat yiriah akitzona be'machbaret. So again, we have the 50 loops on each one to join them together. So these don't have gold clasps, these have bronze clasps because they're not directly covering the tabernacle. They're the tent that covers over the tabernacle. 50 לחבר את האוהל להיות אחד. So then these 50 clasps are joining the 5 and the 6 goat skins together. And that's the way they're done. Verse 19, ויעש מכסה לאוהל אורות אלים, מאדימים, ומכסה אורות תחשים מלמעלה. So there's a covering over that. Let's see if we can see that in the picture. It really does get a little bit confusing. So I guess it's talking about a covering over that. Right there. Okay. The boards and the sockets. So this is the tabernacle itself. So underneath those coverings, under these thingies, are wooden boards made out of acacia wood. עשר אמות אורך הקרש ועמה וחצי האמה רוחב הקרש האחד. So it's 10 meters high or 10 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. שתי ידות לקרש האחד משולבות אחד אל אחד כן עשה לכל קרשי המשכן. So 2, how would you translate this? This is 22. 2 pegs, yadot. Robert Alter translates that as verse 22. Tenons. I don't even know what a tenon is. Let's look it up. I have to go elsewhere to look it up. Decking piece of wood made for insertion into a mortise in another piece. So I guess it's just like, yeah. So I guess it's just like, what would you call it? Like these kind of like square in and out thingies that allows them to be joined together. ידות. כשאחד משולבות אחד אל אחד, כן עשה לכל קרשי המשכן, יעש את הקרשים למשכן 20 קרשים לפעת נגב תימנה. So on the southern side, there's going to be 20 of these boards. 40 אדני כסף, סתחת 20 הקרשים. So then we have these adani kesef. These are sockets. 20 הקרשים, 2 אדנים תחת הקרש האחד לשתי ידותיו, ו2 אדנים תחת הקרש האחד לשתי ידותיו. So these, we said, adanim are sockets underneath the boards for each of its 2 joining points. I'm not even sure. I'm trying to picture this in my mind, but it's a bit difficult. Okay, let's just go on. Verse 25, לצלע המשכן השנית לפעת הצפון עשה 20 קרשים. So 20 of these boards on the northern side, 20 of these boards we saw on the southern side. 40 אדנים כסף, 2 אדנים תחת הקרש האחד ו2 אדנים תחת הקרש האחד. 20 boards on the south, 20 boards on the north. Each of these boards, again, we said, is 1.5 cubits wide and 10 cubits tall. So about 15 feet tall and 1.5 times 1.5, about 2.25, 2.25 feet wide. 40 אדנים כסף, 2 אדנים תחת הקדש. Okay, we can go on a little bit. ולירכתי המשכן ימה. So on the western side, it says shisha krashim. So on the western side, and remember, you're facing west. The tabernacle is open to the east, but it's closed to the west. And there's 6 of them on that western side. Ushne krashim asa lemiktaot amishkan biarkatayim. Vayu to'amim milamata v'yachtav yi'ud tamim al rosho el atabaat echad ken asa l'shnei ktaot vayu shmona krashim. And then blah, blah, blah. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. No, maybe we won't. We'll try to understand it a little bit more. So there are basically 3 sides to the tabernacle, right? If we could see it from here. Let's find that picture again, right? There are 3 sides to the tabernacle. And then on the front of the tabernacle, there's no boards. That's where you enter the tabernacle. It's very difficult to visualize this stuff, right? It's much better to have pictures. Let's see if we can find some pictures. Again, maybe this will help. How do we blow this picture up? No, we don't want that. Oops. It takes you to that. Doesn't take you directly to the picture, which it should. Tabernacle in the desert photo. Let's see what this gives us. That's it in the park one. That's nice, but not what we're looking for. That's nice, but again, not what we're looking for. Simple floor plan of the tabernacle. We don't want that. Floor plan and visual. Maybe this will help. Okay, let's see. Maybe this is going to help a little bit. Make it slightly bigger. Okay, so this is the tabernacle itself. Okay. So here are the krashim that we were talking about, these boards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. And here there should be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the west side. And it's open from the east side, right? This is east here. Okay. 20 panels of gold leaf acacia wood, 30 cubits. There we go. So here are 20 panels. Okay. And here's another 20 panels. 6 panels of gold leaf acacia wood, 10 cubits high. Okay. So it's 6 here. Then we have 4 coverings over the tabernacle proper. That's the fine linen, the goat hair, the ram skin, and the badger skin. That's the tachashim. That's the way they're translating tachashim. So that's this covering here. So that should be this like kind of pyramidal tent, but it doesn't show the ones underneath. And forget the outside for now. So in the Holy of Holies, we have the Ark of the Covenant. Here's the velo, that's the parochet. In the Holy, in the Kodesh, we have the lampstand, the menorah, and the shulchan for the bread. And then outside of the tabernacle, there we have the altar for the burnt offerings and the washing basin. Okay. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, kind of difficult to visualize. It's easier when you're speaking about stories about Abraham and Isaac rather than trying to visualize and understand exactly what's going on. But let's try to make some sense out of it again. We're going to read that again and try to maybe refer back to the picture. So starting in verse 15, "V'asita et hakrashim lemishkan atzei shitim omdim." So these are these boards here. Whoops. Right, these boards here that are made out of acacia wood. Eser amot orech hakaresh, so 20 amot, about 30 feet high. And you can see this in the picture here. No, not that one. It's out to the end. So each of these things is about Eser amot orech hakoresh echad, so about about 15 feet high. So here it says 30 cubits. That's incorrect. This should say 10 cubits. And it even says about 15 feet high. No, 30 cubits. Where are they getting 30 cubits from? I'm not even sure where they're getting 30 cubits from. Mm-hmm. I'm really not sure where they're getting that from, but let's go on. שתי יודות לקרש האחד משולבות אישה אל אחותה, כן תעשה לך לכל קרשי המשכן. So then you're going to have two basically connection points, I guess you can call them, for each of these panels. And that's where they're connected, each one to the next panel. עשית את הקרשים למשכן 20 קרש לפעת נגבה תימנה. So the southern side is going to have 20 of them. 40 אדני כסף תעשה תחת 20 הקרש, שני אדנים תחת הקרש האחד לשתי ידותיו ושני אדנים תחת הקרש האחד לשתי ידותיו. So I'm not sure exactly what that's talking about. So those, again, adanim is translated as sockets. So maybe that's where they fit together. The yad goes into the socket. I'm not really sure. אצל המשכן השנית לפעת צפון 20 קרש. Okay, we'll go on a little bit. Okay, 26, ועשית בריחים, עצי שיטים 5 לקרשי צל המשכן האחד. So do bars. Maybe we can get even a better picture of this. Let's see. Show how the two panels are joined together. I don't know. I don't see it right now. And again, this is kind of very technical. I'm just going to read ahead a little bit. The bars. יעש בריחי עצי שיטים 5 לקרשי צלע המשכן האחד, 5 בריחים לקרשי צלע המשכן השנית, ו5 בריחים לקרשי משכן ירכתיים ימה. So we're talking about bars made out of acacia wood. On the east and west side. I'm sorry, on the north and south side. יעש את הבריח התיכון לברוח בתוך הקרשים מן הקצה אל הקצה, ואת הקרשים ציפה זהב, ואת הטבעות עשה זהב, בתים לבריחים ויצף את הבריחים זהב. Really, what needs to be done here is there really needs to be more visuals on this, and I'm just not going to sit here and try to go through each thing. It's very technical. The best thing to do would be to build your own model of the Mishkan. Then you'll never forget the stuff. Yasat the parochet. So the parochet is the place that separates. This is the parochet right here. Let's find it. The veil. That's the parochet. It separates the holy of holies, the kodesh kodeshim, from the holy, the kodesh. Okay. Or in this picture, this is the parochet right here, the veil. Okay. And תכלת ועל הגבן תולעת שני ושש משזר מעשה חושב עשה אותה כרובים. So there it's made again from the same types of fabrics that we've mentioned many times, the sky blue and the violet, etc. Verse 36, and kruvim, cherubim are embroidered upon it. V'asla arba'a amudei shitim. So 4 acacia wood poles, v'yatzpem zahav, and they're to be covered with gold, plated with gold, not plated because that plated is short for electroplated, but covered, there's a better word for it. Let's see what word did they translate this here. Overlaid, there we go. Overlaid with gold, vahem zahav, and the hooks are of gold. Tzoklehem arab adanei kasef, and then you have these adanim, sockets of silver. Curtain for the door, v'as masach lefetach ha'ohel. תכלת ועל הגבן תולעת שני ושש משזר מעשה רוקם. את עמודיו 5 ואת דבביהם וציפה ראשיהם וחשוקיהם זהב ועדניהם 5 נחושת. So the curtain for the door is going to be this thing right here. So remember we said the entrance is on the east side. This is the east. Okay. The back where the Kodesh Kodeshim is the west. You're walking west as you enter it. Okay. So that means that if this is east and this is west, this is south and this is north. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. This is the curtain for the door. Okay, verse 37. I think I might skip 37. I don't want to go through all this technical stuff again. I think I might skip all of this. It's just too technical, and there are better ways to learn it than just to go through the text. I think what I'll do then is this, because we're already getting to the end of our study time. I'm just going to read through, and if I have anything to say specifically, I'll say it, and if not, then we'll just end when we get to the end of this. So, constructing the ark, Ya'as B'tzalel et Ha'aron. So this is now the Ark of the Covenant. Atzei Shittim. Amatayim Chetzi, Arko, Amav Chetzi Rochbo, Amav Chetzi Chomato, V'yitzapehu Zahav, overlaid with gold, Ta'or, pure gold, Mibetu Michutz, inside and outside. Okay? So the ark, this is the centerpiece of everything, right? This is as close as Israel's allowed to come to an idol, but it's not an idol, right? It's not worshipped, right? In fact, God has no physical representation in this tabernacle anywhere. His presence just exists between the cherubim, but none of this is meant to be any kind of depiction of God in any way, shape, or form, right? As opposed to, let's say, the Christians who have depictions of their God all over their disgusting churches. So, tahor mibetu michutz v'ya'aslo zer zahav saviv, and then it's going to have this kind of artwork around it. This, how do they translate zer? Molding. Yitzok lo arba tabot zahav. Al arba palmotav, ushtet tabot al tzela'o echad, ushtet tabot al tzela'o hashenit. So these are the little rings where the badim, where the sticks are going to be placed through, and to carry the ark. Yas badei atzei shitim yitzofotam zahav. So everything with the Ark of the Covenant is gold, right? It's acacia wood covered with gold. Yaveh et habadim bitabaot al tzelot Aaron leset et Aaron. So then the carrying sticks are slipped through the rings on the ark. So if you can find a picture of that right there. Okay. We ask kaporet zahav tahor, and then the kaporet, the covering, or somebody relate this, as I said before, to the word kippur. And say this is the mercy seat. I don't agree with that translation at all, but I just bring it up. Yas kaporet zahav tahor amatayim v'chetzi arka v'ama v'chetzi rochba v'yas shnei kruvim zahav mikshat asa otam mishnei katzot akaporet. So the cherubim are beaten out from a single piece of gold. There's no connecting pieces. right? And are they also connected to the ark cover? I believe so. So if that's the case, then this entire ark cover, and we can see here, there's no connecting pieces. It's a single piece of gold that's beaten into the shape. Okay, I'm not sure if it includes the ark cover and the cherubim, or just the cherubim, and then the two cherubim are connected to the ark cover. I think the entire ark cover, including the two cherubim and the cover itself, are beat out of a single piece of gold. So, Shachad Sauta Mishne Kaporet, verse 8, Kru v'chad mikatze mizeh, Kru v'chad mikatze mizeh, Min hakaporet asa et hakruvim mishne ktzotav, Ayu hakruvim porshek knafaim lemala. So they're stretching out their wings upwards. Sochachim bekanfeim al hakaporet. So, and they're covering with their wings they're shielding with the wings the ark cover. Paneim ish el achad el achiv el hakaporet hayu pnei hakruvim, and they're looking down at the covering and towards each other. So that leaves, as we said in previous studies, with a 45-degree angle. That's the way it's usually understood. Right? Let's look at that here. Where did we go? Kruvim, there we go. Right? So you can see the faces are pointing at a 45-degree angle. They're looking down at the cover, but they're also supposed to be looking towards each other. So that's usually understood as a 45-degree angle. Right? It's the only way that would kind of make sense. Let's get rid of this. And then we have the table of showbread. V'as et ashulchan matzei shitim amatayim orko ve'ama ve'rochbo ve'ama v'chetzi komato. V'tafato zahav tahor. So this is also made out of acacia wood and then overlaid with gold. V'as lo zer zahav saviv, and also with this molding around. V'as lo miskeret tofach saviv. So tofach is a handbreadth. We spoke about that earlier. If I remember correctly, that's the distance between the horizontal distance between the I think it was a thumb, or maybe it was the 3 middle fingers. I'd have to look it up again. But it's a much smaller measure of length. Saviv ya'as zer zahav lemiskarto. Saviv vayitzok lo arba'at tabaot zahav yiten et tabaot al arba peot asher la'arba raglav. So here we have again, these are going to be the 4 carrying rings. Umat miskeret hayut atabaot batim levadim. So, and then these are going to be the housing for the carrying poles. In order to carry the shulchan. So these carrying poles are again going to be made of acacia wood and overlaid with gold. And here it doesn't say zahav tahor. It just says zahav, so maybe it's a slightly lower form of gold. In order to carry the shulchan, the table, v'yas et hakelim asher ala shulchan et ke'arotav wa et kapotav wa et manikotav et hakshot asher yusach behem zahav tahor. And all of the various vessels, so the bowls and the spoons, etc., are all to be made again out of gold. So we have, let's see, there's the showbread. So I'm not sure what these suckers are over there. That might be the rotav, the bowls. I'm not sure exactly what the use are. We'd have to look at it, and I'm not going to go into it right now. And then we have the menorah. Yasaf menorah et ha-menorah zahav ta'or miksha asa et ha-menorah. Okay, so it's again, the entire menorah, again, just like the ark cover, is beaten out from a single block or a single lump of gold. Now we know that gold is actually soft and malleable, so that's not too far a stretch of the imagination. Miksha chad et menorah yerecha. So yerech is literally its thigh. Here they translate it as shaft. וקנה וגבייה וכפתוריה ופרחיה ממנה היו, ושישה קנים יוצאים מצידיה 3 קני מנורה מצידה אחד ו3 קני מנורה מצידה השני. So 6 stalks, to 6 branches, 3 on each side. Shlosha givi'im mishukadim, so 3 almond-shaped bowls. B'kanei achad, kaftor v'perach l'shloshim givi'im mishukadim b'kanei achad, kaftor v'parach. Ken l'sheshet akanim hayotzim min ha-menorah. ובמנורה 4 גביעים משוקדים, כפתוריה ופרחיה. כפתור תחת 2 הקנים ממנה, כפתור תחת 2 הקנים ממנה, וכפתור תחת 2 הקנים ממנה. So those are the kaftor is the place where the branches from the 2 sides are joined, and there are 3 of those kaftorim, because there are 6 branches. And I think there's 1 more actually. So do we have the menorah? We don't have it here. All right, let's go on. כפתוריהם וקינותם ממנה היו כולה מקשה אחד זהב טהור. So all beaten out of 1 lump of gold. ויעשת נרות 7 מלקחיך ומחתותיה זהב טהור. So this is the wicks and the trays, again, made out of pure gold. Kikar zahav ta'or asa utav et kol keleha. Altar of incense, v'as the mizbeach ha'ktoret atzei shitim ama orko ve'ama rochbo rabua ve'amatayim komato mimenu hayu karnotav. V'yitzaf oto zahav ta'or et gago ve'et kirotav saviv ve'et karnotav v'as lo zer zahav saviv. V'shtei tabaot zahav asa lo mitachal lizero. על שתי צלותיו, על שני צידו לבתים לבדים, לשאת אותו בהם. So again, we have the incense altar. Again, it's made out of acacia wood, overlaid with gold, and then we have the rings to carry them, and then we have the carrying sticks. ויעש את הבדים עצי שיטים ויצף אותם זהב. So they also made of acacia wood and overlaid with gold. ויעש את שמן המשחה, קודש ואת קטורת הסמין, טהור מעשה רוקח. Okay, so then we have the anointing oil and the incense. Verse 38, we're going to go down here to 20, and then we're going to end the study. As et mizbach ha'olah atzei shitim 5 amot arko, 5 amot rochbo, rabua ב3 amot komato, yas karnotav al 4 pinotav, mimenu hayu karnotav yitzaf oto nechoshet. So here, the horns that are on the 4 corners of the altar are overlaid not with gold, but with copper or with bronze. Let's see if we can look at that. There we go, right there. Okay, these things right here. These 4 horns on the altar are overlaid with bronze. So the farther away we get from the center, right, then the less valuable or the less special are the materials that are used, right? יעש את כל כלי המזבח את הסירות ואת היעים ואת המזרקות ואת המזלגות ואת המחטות. כל כליו עשה נחושת. Everything there is made out of copper or bronze, not made out of gold. יעש למזבח מכבד מעשה רשת נחושת תחת קרקובו מלמטה עד חציו. So that's going to be this screen. Let's see if we can find that here. You can see it on the picture. No, you can't see it there. I thought we had a picture of it. So that's basically the screen on which on the altar in which the sacrifices are laid. Oh, we just read that. We tzok 4 טבעות ב4 קצות למחבר נחושת בתים לבדים. יעש את הבנים עצי שיטים יצף אותם נחושת. So again, we have here use of bronze with the altar. ויבא את הבדים בטבעות עד צלות המזבח לשאת אותו בהם נבוב וחוט עשה אותו. So nevuv is hollow. And let's just look at this for a second. So this is 38:7. He brought the poles through the rings on the flanks of the altar to carry it by means of them hollow planks did he make it. So I guess it's talking about the poles were actually hollow. Again, a sign that it's less, special materials than are used inside the Holy or the Holy of Holies. Okay, the bronze base in the tabernacle courtyard. Let's finish this off. Yas et akior nechoshet ve'et kano nechoshet be'marot atzovot asher tzav'u petach ohel mo'ed. So that's 8. He made the basin of bronze, its pedestal of bronze, with the mirrors of the women's working force that was doing the work at the entrance of the tent of appointment. That's an interesting translation. Let's look at this one here. So that was 38:8. Here we have 38:8. Seven. So Robert Alter deals with that one. And he made the laver of bronze and its stand of bronze from the mirrors of the women who flocked to the entrance of the tent of meeting. So we can get a picture of that. So that's the laver right there. Or if we look at this picture here, I thought I had. You can't see it here, but it will be behind the altar, between the altar and the tabernacle. Okay. So marot is mirrors. Atzovot, those who assembled, or who tzava is an army or a host. So from the host, and it's female, it's plural. It's a plural present tense or indicative female. So the atzovot are those who gather, or those who assemble. That assembled at the entrance of the temple, at the tent of meeting, right? So apparently these mirrors that the women would carry around had copper bases. They were taken and used to create the laver, or the bowl, the giant bowl. V'as et hachatzer liv'at negev timana kalei hachatzer shesh mashzar me'a be'ama. So shesh mashzar. So all of this outer. Let's see if we can get a picture over here. All of this basically these curtains, or these tapestries, not tapestries, these fabric walls around the outside of the entire area. That's what we're speaking about here. Okay, and they're made out of shesh, fine linen, byssus, twine byssus, me'ab amma. So 100 amma, so it's about 150 feet, right? So 100 cubits are about 150 feet. עמודיהם 20, עדניהם 20, נחושת דבבי והעמודים החשוקים כסף, רפעת צפון 100 באמה ועמודיהם 20 ועדניהם 20, נחושת דבבי העמודים וחשוקיהם כסף. Verse 12, רפעת ים כלאים 50 באמה עמודיהם 10 ועדניהם 10, ועבי העמודים והחשוקיהם כסף. רפעת קדמה מזרחה 50 אמה, כלאים 15 אמה אל הכתף עמודיהם 3 ועדניהם 3, verse 15, לכתף השנית מזה ומזה ששאר החצר כלאים 15 אמה עמודיהם 3 ועדניהם 3. כל כלאי החצר סביב 6 משזר ועדנים לעמודים נחושת דבבי העמודים, and it goes on and on. I'm actually going to stop here. I'm tired. This is very technical stuff. This is not the best way to learn this stuff. The best way to learn this stuff would be to watch YouTube videos, to build a model of it, to go visit the replica in Timna Park. Maybe there are other replicas elsewhere in the world. To visit them, that's really the best way to learn this stuff. Okay, it's very difficult to translate technical instructions into meaningful visualizations. So we did the best we can, and thankfully, these technical instructions will be over soon. So next week's Parsha then we're going to be speaking more about some technical instructions. And then we have actually the setting up of the Mishkan and the descending of God's presence into the Mishkan. And then we go into Leviticus. So we're going to have one more next week, slightly technical Parsha. And then we go into the next book in the Torah, which is Leviticus. So with that being said, if there are any questions or comments, please let me know right now. If not, we're going to end the study for today. We will call it a day. It's been a long study, interesting study, but a very difficult study to teach in this way. It really has to be visualized. That's really the best way to understand this stuff. So if you really want to understand more how the tabernacle is set up, unless you want to buy, I know they sell models. In Israel, they used to sell models of the tabernacle that you can actually build a model. Some of them were out of paper, maybe some were more complicated. You can watch YouTube videos, right? And again, none of this stuff is 100% sure. These are just different people's understandings and interpretations. So nothing is set in stone, but it is definitely a much better way to understand it rather than just talking about it. So with that being said, I'm going to end the Torah study for this week. I'm going to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom or Shavua Tov, depending where you are. And a Bizrat Yehovah, we will see you again next week. So Shabbat Shalom.